Good evening, everybody. It is sprint race time in the ASR GT3 World Championship for 2021, and it's on French soil. The first time in 3 years we come back to a fan favourite, the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours, right dead smack in the centre of France. And in actual fact, it is about 324 kilometres from the main attraction that takes place a little bit later on tonight, the Le Mans 24 Hour, about 300 odd k's to the northwest. What am I doing? My geographic locations is wrong. But it's not too far away from this forgotten circuit that's been around for a long, long time. Hasn't seen a lot of regular top flight running since the late 2000s. Nowadays sort of plays host to the World Superbikes, and that's about it. But for us tonight, it plays host to round 7 out of 10 for the GT3 World Championship, brought to you by Endurance Chat Media. Myself and Josh Baggs are the only two in-house for this one. The man who normally heads up Endurance Chat Media is actually off getting himself organised for tonight's Le Mans 24-hour start. It takes place at about 4 hours' time from now. But Baggsy, it's great to be back at a place that we haven't been for quite some time.
Evening, Nether. Evening, everyone. It is good to be back here. And quick shout out to Floody, who's hurriedly preparing for the Le Mans 24 Hour tonight and all the stuff he does there. And as part of Endurance Chat, who are kindly sponsoring us, and also sort of consider us the curtain raiser. You said pre-broadcast for the Le Mans tonight. It's still a little while away, but we'll give you some more sprint-style endurance racing tonight. 2 60-minute sprints here at Magny-Cours, or Mangy-Cours, as some people like to pronounce it to annoy French people.
That's right. Yeah, actually 2 30-minute sprints there. It's 60 minutes all up, so 60 minutes worth of racing for the night. So 2 30-minute sprints, time plus 1 lap. As is always in the GT3 series, no matter how long the distance, it is time plus 1 lap. And for all of those who have watched the videos from all the way back in the day here on Outworld Broadcasting, you would have noted this one took place last time in 2018, and it was scheduled to be a 90-minute race back then. Was actually red flagged due to a bunch of technical dramas, and actually had to be cut short at just after the half distance mark in that one. So no such issues tonight, because the safety car doesn't have to make an appearance apart from when it does the formation lap, and that's about it. There's no safety cars in the sprint format. It is flag to flag running every step of the way. So from green flag to checkered flag at the end of it all. And as much as we like to refer to this being the sprint series, Bagsy, because there is no mandatory stops to the sprint series, fuel is going to be an issue at a circuit like this with the long straights and the technical nature of this track, which we should probably actually dive into now and have a really good solid look at, because the track itself, it has corners modelled on a bunch of other circuits from around the world, but in its own unique way.
Yeah, it's essentially the Herman Tilke style of track before Herman Tilke, in terms of taking things that have worked in other tracks and just trying them out in different spots. We've got the Adelaide hairpin, named because it is very similar to the Adelaide hairpin. We've got bits and pieces from Imola. It's really stuff that's all over the place, but it does come together to form a fairly unique and definitely forgotten track since F1 has left here. You can see, though, as you were saying, the long straights are going to definitely cause some issues for the more fuel-hungry cars. And the other thing to point out, and while this is not indicative of the lap times, or it might be indicative of the quality lap times, but at the moment we've got our best time in practice is in the higher 135s. So we're probably not going to hit those qualifying or race lap times, but they are fast lap times considering it's a 4.5 kilometer circuit. Just all those times on the straight and all those slipstreaming opportunities as well. So we might see, if there's a battle of a few at the front, it's people wanting to prefer second or third position just because they'll send their fuel, get their fuel dollar further.
Absolutely. Getting your fuel mileage right is very, very important here. Rody is in the server tonight, so I think a few people will not be wanting to get their fuel numbers from him, as is the running joke at ASR. But the only real change that's happened to this circuit in the last sort of 20 to 30 years is the last complex you can see we're coming up to here at the moment. They actually used to be a chicane a little bit further beforehand and then a right-hand turn to bring you onto the main straight. That chicane is now just before the start-finish straight now, so it's a little bit of a change from a long time ago. But yeah, 5 big long straights, some long loaded corners, and especially in the first half of the circuit. So there is a fair bit of on the gas and high speed running tonight. That will be very, very challenging for these drivers. And maybe, as you said, you're right, sitting back there, second or third place on the road in the draft, being able to just sort of maintain that gap to the car in front, rolling out of on the approach to braking zones a little bit early, or having that luxury of being able to keep your distance from another car in front of you could pay dividends. That's always been like the Lewis wedding strategy way we've seen in years gone past, and I think a few people are going to have to channel that strategy tonight to see if they can make it last.
Yeah, it's funny because we generally don't think of strategy as a big problem in a 30-minute race, but there's always strategy involved. Yeah, you might have to change your tact based on where you qualify, what your expectations are for the race, and speaking of expectations, the expectations of some of the people who are championship contenders at the moment are definitely going to be shaped by how their qualifyings go, because it is multiple qualifyings, one for each race. We'll have the second qualifying in between the two races, so people will have gotten a feel for the track and their cars in race trim as well as quality trim already. So that second qualifying is going to be interesting as well.
Yeah, that's the unique part about this whole setup as well. It is the dual race format, but also the dual qualifying format that goes along with it. So there is a little bit of a different dynamic where in the most of the races it is the single qualifying and the single race format. So be on the lookout for that one. After the first race is over and done with tonight, there'll be a short break. We'll have a quick chat to the top 3 from the race, and then we'll get straight into second qualifying for the second race tonight. Not too far away. Thank you for joining us on what is, I guess, the most important day in France with regards to motorsport. We've alluded to it several times, the Le Mans 24-hour. Good to see, from an Australian point of view, Bagsy, while we're just waiting for the practice session to wind down. Good to see from an Australian point of view that we're actually quite well represented over there, and the Aussies doing quite well at the moment. Some of them up in the top 5 and 6, especially in GTE and GTM. I think Ryan Briscoe's done quite well, and we've always got a few good representatives over there. Matt Campbell, who's been a mainstay of the Porsche stable for quite some time. I know we call them our cousins across the ditch, but Brendan Hartley, as always, doing really, really well in what is technically the hypercar category nowadays as part of the Toyota stable. So I think there's quite a lot of us that'll be going across to look after and or sort of support those guys along the way.
Yeah, I think it was Ryan Briscoe he's in a hypercar as well this year.
He might have been, actually, yes. I think maybe if memory serves me correctly, you might be right. He has done a lot of GTE running before, but I think this year he might be stepping up into the higher categories. I did see his name on the sheets a bit earlier in the day, but maybe just got my wires crossed a little bit there.
He's not with Toyota or Alpine. He's with whoever the other one is, which I've already... If Fleddy's listening, he'll be cursing my name.
Probably Orica, I think, is probably the one that I think there's all the different makes and models in the LMP2 class as well. Just all the different team names. It might be the Yoast team, I think, is the one that springs to mind. A lot of people sort of forget nowadays. But people in the live chat, if they're there, will probably correct me if I'm wrong. But nonetheless, I think we've got about 4 or 5 Aussies over there at the moment, and at least 1 or 2 New Zealanders as well. So from our little point of view in the world, we can be a little bit biased, but that's just the way we like to roll sometimes with regards to supporting our teams and our guys in motorsport in general.
He's in the Glickenhaus.
Glickenhaus, there you go. That's the one.
Entry.
So, all good. All right, well, we're not too far away from qualifying. Looks like we've just ticked into the qualifying session, so that means the Damon Woods 1 minute 35.9 was the best lap in practice. As you saw, was probably quite some considerable margin off the qualifying record, which is into the mid-34s all the way back from 2018. So probably not going to be under any real substantial threat tonight, those track records, as much the same way as they haven't been under really any substantial threat for the entire year. Most of the times that we end up going to some of these tracks, because of the BOP adjustments, there's no real improvements on the track records, but the important thing to note is the circuits that we haven't been to at all in GT3 that have come up this year. We're going to get some track records set, so coming up with the next round is also on French soil. It's going to be at Paul Ricard, so we'll be setting some track records there for the very first time. A little bit earlier in the season, we set some track records for the Nürburgring, and for Albert Park, we had the very first round was a bit of a throwback because that one hadn't seen the light of day since 2018 either. And the other one was Estoril, was the one that didn't have any track records to date before we went there for the very first time. As we're starting to get the field rolling through the grid, you can just start seeing on your right-hand side there are a few cars just starting to make their way out of pit lane. Termo's the first one of those that has managed to get his way onto the circuit, and the rest of the field sort of continues to file out behind him very, very steadily.
Be plenty of space on this track as well. 10 minutes for qualifying, so they should have enough time to get themselves a bit of room. I can see Damon Woods though here in the background of Termo, and he is going to be presumably going to be faster. As we saw in practice, he had the best time. So wonder if he'll start to back off a little bit as they get towards the end of the track, or if he's going to try and accelerate, get up past Termo. But he would be wise to give himself a bit of breathing room because he does have quite the gap behind him. I think it's Luke Emerton's behind him a long way back. He probably won't appear in any shots at all. I might have just got a glimpse of him there far in the background of that shot on Termo. It's a big glut of them here actually, all trying to get position.
Absolutely, and that was Greg Turra and Nathan Higginson just trying to sneak past Luke Emerton. You were spot on there, who's taken the Audi. They're just getting track position at the moment very important because they all left the lane within about 30 seconds of each other. Once Termo departed, the whole field started making an effort to get themselves onto the track because they don't want to be caught out behind another car. They've only got 10 minutes and the lap goes for about a minute, better part of a minute and 35 seconds and change. Termo into turn one for the first time. So into turn one he goes. Turn two is a little bit of an inconsequential corner. It just sort of appears and then it disappears. Turn three is Estoril, based on the final corner at the famous circuit that we were at earlier in the season. And then up the back straight, which bends to the right here, goes through turn four, which really, according to the map, is supposed to be a turn with like 15 corners and it's supposed to be 17 by law. Into the Adelaide hairpin. Slowest corner on the circuit, negotiates that pretty well, uses a bit of curb, kicks the car around, then runs slightly downhill into the Nürburgring chicane, so right over left, use a fair bit of curb there. Termo's done that pretty nicely, into 180 degrees, which is the 180 degree left-hander on the inside of the circuit, back uphill, trending up through the gears, up to the Imola chicane. Again, another one of the right over left chicanes, uphill, very, very fast, actually, surprisingly quick. You see it go into the Chateau d'Eau, which is the right-hander that takes you onto the final big straight of the circuit. Again, running under the bridge, downhill, and into the final complex, the Lachie complex. On the brakes hard, double right-hander, and then a very quick left-hander. So it's a chicane at the very end to end the lap. And Termo across the line under the ASR gantry, stops the clock at a 37.4. So it's not a too bad an opening mark. It's immediately bettered by Woods, who goes with a 35.8. So you were right, Bagsy. He's right on the pace very, very early.
Greg Turra pops it in second with a 136.4. He is still 0.6 of a second off Damon Woods, so a pretty big gap there. Got a few people coming across the line now. Luke Emerton goes into fourth. The one we want to be looking at is Steve Bolger, who's about to come across the line now, I believe. Maybe not.
He has.
I must
He's
have
gone
missed it.
through. It's 1:38.5, so that's actually probably not really a representative time of what the Ferrari is capable of. So gets an early banker lap in, I think you probably want to call it. And most of the drivers have actually decided to go again. So that's the key bit here. You've sort of got to make it into 2 runs. You're going to probably get 2 runs on this set of tyres, then go back to the pits, and then have another bite of the cherry. That's a bit better from Steve Bulge at the first intermediate, and only 0.077 off the ultimate pace there. Not a bad first sector time at all for the Gravel Rash Racing Ferrari. And
so Xavier Kokai, who we're also expected to be up the top, I think he had some interference with traffic on his lap. I think he caught a slower car or potentially someone on their out lap and got held up. So he's flashed his lights a little bit, and so his first lap was a 1:46 or something to that effect.
Yeah, it was in the it was in the final sector actually, and it looks like it was Tim Redmond came across him on a hot lap, and I mean they're both entitled to have the same track there. Redmond probably wasn't aware, I think, that Kokai was on a hot lap, and there's been a little bit of a misunderstanding there as Woods lowers the benchmark again. Here is Kokai on the screen actually, so he's going for another lap. Woods has lowered the benchmark again. We're now down to a 35.7, so that actually might be pretty close to safe for pole at the moment. He's got nearly a half second on Greg Tara, and Termo has found a little improvement as well to go to a 36.4.
Yeah, it's something people were waiting. Notice Lewis Wedding not having posted the time yet. He stayed in the pits for a significant amount of time, letting everyone else get their first few laps out of the system, and is looking to attack the track with a bit more free space, a few less people on it. He's currently 15th in the standings because he hasn't set a lap, but he's coming through the final corner shortly, as we have him on the screen now. And yeah, so he's taken advantage of the fact that a lot of people have already done their laps and is looking pretty racy so far in practice.
You got Rosella behind him as well. He's just gone up into P7 after that effort, 37.6. So that's an early start for Rosella. And I think for Lewis Wedding, this is probably just more about going off sequence to everybody else. So while everybody else is out there cutting the laps, he was sitting around waiting now that everyone's sort of laid down a bit of rubber and probably getting towards the end of their allocated stint before they come in and change tyres. He's then going to try and take some advantage while there's a bit of clear track. For the moment, though, it hasn't actually worked out because the only man currently in the pits is Termo.
Yeah, admittedly, though, all the other people on the track are a fair way away from him.
Big accident for Redmond. Big accident for Redmond at the Nürburgring chicane. Have a look at that one on the Endurance Chat Media replay because he just got that all wrong coming through the very, very fast chicane. If you get it wrong, it's a one-line groove. Very difficult to run 2x2 through the chicane, but if you get it wrong, even running solo, consequences are disastrous. Let's have a look what happened here. We just caught the end of it. Did you just have a moment? Oh, he got on the curb, got on the sausage curb, upset the car, and yeah, that's the end of that chapter. That was always going to go straight to the accident, or the scene of the accident, as they say in the classics.
So Lewis Wedding had an issue on his lap while we were watching that and did not complete his lap. So he is exiting the pits now on an out lap. So he is going to get 1 lap, maybe 2. Actually, no, just the one.
Yeah, it's going to be one flyer because there's
one lap.
2.25 minutes on the clock. So he'll get around and he'll get across the line, probably with about a minute remaining, I would imagine. So yeah, this is going to be his one and only shot. He's currently 16th out of the 17 runners in the server. We did lose Lockie Burke just at the beginning of qualifying. So if he comes back in, he'll start rear of grid. Takes a little liberties with the track there. Does Lewis Wedding on his way to start-finish line. And then the only other car yet to set a time is the man below Lewis in the standings, which is Glenn Miles. So here's Glenn on screen, and he's on his way up to the hairpin.
Damon Woods is on a slightly faster lap. He set a purple middle sector. His first sector, though, pretty much matched by Greg Tara, only 400ths of a second between them in this lap.
Oh, and a big whack. Big whack on the wall as well. That's a hefty whack. So he's going to have to go back to pits, and rightfully so. So missing bonnet and all. Saw that one live. And that's a big massive accident there. So he was looking pretty good actually, and just dropped it on the curb and just probably didn't judge getting back onto the circuit at precisely the right time. So that puts him out of commission. Can Greg Tara find an improvement? He's actually looked pretty good in sectors 1 and 2, but he didn't go purple, but he's...
he had a bad final sector.
Yeah, bad final sector. He dropped some traffic as well. Bolger up to P2. Good move from Bolger. So that's a late move, and not far off the top time either. So that's promising and encouraging for the Ferrari.
Noah Tara accidentally getting out of his way though, so Bolger has a shot at a second lap here.
Yeah, he is. He's on the clock, you're right.
30 seconds to go, so he might as well. Greg Tara wasn't able to because there was slower traffic ahead of him that would have given him no chance to lap. So this is Bolger. If he can replicate what he did just before, it doesn't look like he will though, because he's 5/10 down through the first sector.
Yeah, that won't be an improvement there for that one. That's way too far off that sector time. So we return our attention to Lewis Wedding now, as he is let to set a time. So Glenn Miles is yet to set a time. He's actually gone back to the pit, so he's actually going to be at the back of this grid. Along with Lockie Burke at this rate. Lewis Wedding 1.2 seconds down at the second sector intermediate. And now coming down into the final complex. A bit further up, we're looking for Tim Redmond. He's currently P5. He's just ahead of Lewis Wedding, and he stays P5. So as we cut to the wide shot, here comes Lewis Wedding down the front straight. What can he do? He goes up to...
Nowhere.
He got a track cut, so he's at the back of the grid, and yeah, he's not happy about it. Xavier Kokai, he stays position 7. A bit further behind, you've got Rhodey in position number 15. So there's Rhodey coming into back a shot.
Bit wide there, but will still be faster than Lewis Wedding.
Yeah, it will be.
No, it won't be.
He's actually, well, he was pit anyway, so he's there he is coming into the lane. And
Not
who
faster than Lewis Wedding.
Who else is out there at the moment? It's Luke Rosella is the one I want to have a look at. Is he actually still on a lap? Yes, he is. And
it's 4/10 up on his PB as well.
So 4/10 up for Luke Rosella. That would move him ahead of Tim Redmond. It would move him ahead of Turmo as well, yeah. So he's looking at going onto the second row if he keeps this pace going up. Higginson's out of it, so he's the only other car on the circuit at the moment. And Rosella in car 55. Big slide through the final complex. And whacks the wall. Done the same thing that happened to...
Disappointing.
Very disappointing for Luke Rosella. So he stays P6. He did exactly the same thing that Damon Woods did, although a little bit less severe. Big dent in the side door of the Porsche. But Damon Woods with the pole. So that's the end of that. And alongside him will be Steve Bolger and Greg Tara and Turmo, the top 4. Then Redmond, Rosella, Kokai and Noah Tara. Steve Warwick, another good performance in the Bentley, into the top 10 in P9. And then Higginson rounding out the 10. Then from Taipan, RSM Latino, who's in for his first run in GT3s. Luke Emmett and Brian Walsh and Rhodey were the only men to set times in that session. So Lewis Wedding didn't set a time. Glenn Miles didn't set a time either.
Well, that's disappointing for Luke Rosella. I feel like that wall may claim more victims tonight, and during the race that could be interesting because it does spit the cars straight back onto the track if it happens. So we could see a significant pile-up if someone at the front of a pack gets a bit leery through there and clouts the wall.
Yeah, that is now starting to become a little bit of a worry, I must admit, Bagsy. I am sort of a little bit concerned that, like exactly you said, that wall might yet claim a few more victims tonight if they're not careful. But qualifying, I guess, is all about pushing the limits. I guess the sprint racing is about pushing the limits too, but because of how the fuel situation is and everybody needs to run, they're going to have to be a little bit more careful when the racing comes along. And especially because when we look at the driver standings, you don't want to be losing a lot of points by bashing walls, because have a look how tight this is at the top. So last year's World Series champion Steve Bolger only has a 5-point margin over Greg Tara. Remember, Bagsy, coming into the Imola round a couple of weeks ago, that was triple that. It was 15 points, and that win for Greg Tara with that fantastic last lap pass was very, very important for his championship.
It definitely was, and we can see how bad results can affect you as well, because if I'm remembering correctly, it was only 2 rounds ago that we had a 4-way a four-way group that were all within about 10 to 15 points of each other,
Correct.
with
Yeah, we did.
Noah Tara and Termo being up there as well. And there you can see they are almost, well, in the case of Noah, he is a whole race win behind in terms of 50-point races. But these ones, I believe, well, what have we got for tonight?
Yeah, they're
That's,
25 points for a
25
race win,
each.
for a race win
Yeah,
each. So, yeah, so maximum 50 points
he's
on the table.
essentially a round behind.
Yeah, he is now, and you were correct. Back at after the first 4 rounds were completed, we had a very close four-way battle at the top. The top 4 were actually separated by 7 points. It was Bolger from Termo, from Noah Tara, and Greg Tara. That was your top 4. Greg had a pretty reasonable start to the campaign, and he then had a bit of a shocker at Interlagos, and dropped him out of the top end of the town down to 4th place. So he's recovered quite well. Point standings back then was Bolger 144, Termo 139, Noah Tara 139, and Greg Tara 137. And you can look at that. Still the same top 4, but very, very different series of circumstances for these guys. Interesting enough, Steve Bolger doesn't have a win on the season, but he just keeps getting those top 3 finishes. He keeps plugging away, as we keep saying to the drivers across all the series. You just keep going about your business, getting yourself points all the time, because for people like Damon Woods, who have come into the series with a huge amount of prowess and a huge amount of flair, and has already taken 2 wins and a 2nd place from the 3 races contested, the drivers at the top end of town just need to keep scoring those top 3, top 4 finishes, and they won't be caught by him. So, but the more they topple over each other, and the more they get involved in incidents, then they're going to start to be falling into his clutches, because he's going to start to becoming like a freight train in the last half of the season.
He certainly is, and we've got, well, as it says at the top there, 6 of 10 rounds completed. So we have this round and 3 more. What were the point allocations for our last rounds after this one?
So we've got 3 more rounds after this. So if we'll cut back to the away from the points graphic for a little bit. So we've got after tonight, so sprint round points, you get 25 points for a race win in each race. So the 50 points maximum on offer for tonight, and then we've got one of each of the rounds to come. So the next round at the a second of the French circuits on the calendar is twice in. So it's the very first time I think we've had 2 rounds in the same country for quite some time, is going to be held at Paul Ricard, and that's going to be a 70-minute race. So the 70-minute race, you get slightly less points. You end up with 45 points for the win in the 70-minute race. Monza is the penultimate round of the championship, and for all the years that we've done it, it's been a 90-minute race, and it's no exception this year. That's a 90-minute race, so 50 points for the win in that series of races. And then we get to the last round of the championship, which is under lights at the Bahrain International Circuit, and that's going to be the same sprint format we've got tonight. So 25 points for a race win times 2 in that one as well. So there's a maximum after tonight of 145 points on the table still for any one competitor. And then tonight you want to throw in another 50 points for good measure if you can win both races. So there's 195 points maximum for any one driver across the last 4 circuits for the season.
Yeah, and that basically means that because Damon Woods is only 80 points, 84 points to be precise, behind the leaders at the moment, any mistake is going to cost them, and he's going to be an ever-looming presence. That being said, their fight is still with each other, not with him. So if they really need to focus on the other people around them and finishing the races. But if they don't, yeah, it is conceivable that they all have their own separate issues, because really the top 2 have to have issues twice, and it has to be in races that are worth more points to bring Damon Woods back into it. The other 2, in Noah really only won, and Damon Woods is going to be right back on him, and it can be a sprint race. It's every possibility if Noah drops one of these races here and Damon Woods wins, he's going to be very close, within 10 points of Noah Tara. And really same with Termo. He is basically 1.5 races out, or 1.5 sprint races out. If he has an issue in one of the longer form races, he will not be ahead of Damon Woods either.
Yeah, correct. And looks like we're just getting a very small restart here in warm-up. I think just for one of the drivers, I think that maybe had a little bit of a drama just getting into the race session. So we'll take a few seconds just to see how that all pans out. Looks like we might not be that far away from getting it done. There was a late entry for someone that needed to jump in late. Looks like Ben Hall's jumping in, who's had a bit of a half decent run through Super Toodle and the smaller series, the ARCs, the last couple of weeks. So he's stepping in for a little bit of a different run. And it looks like we're just getting a small reset just for him to sort out a couple of things before we go racing. But it's good to have a good field tonight. Good to have a couple of guys along in the live chat. Good to say hello to Mike Coulston there over in the UK. Good to see you're going to be back racing next round, Mike. Your McLaren, I think, is still waiting for you. So that'll be good to see another McLaren out there. We usually see only maybe one McLaren if Scott Nolan decides to have a run, or tonight that car is being piloted by Tim Redmond, the YNA Motorsport McLaren. And a couple of other drivers that we haven't seen for some time. So Luke Emmerton's back in the series after a couple of years. Good to have some of these guys coming back around. Pete Thrower's lending his support to Taipan after a good top 3 result in one of the races in last night's Super 2 standings. So getting a little bit of good racing over the last couple of weeks as Taipan, and good to see he's finally cracked the top 3 result, as we are getting a little bit of practice going here for a couple of drivers. I'm not sure if this is just going to be running in pack practice or if this is going to be pit stop practice, but they usually don't need to practice pit stops in a race like this. And I guess it always helps just in case something goes wrong.
Yeah, you feel the feeling that if something goes wrong to the point that you have to pit in this race, the tenths of a second you will save on your pit entry and or exit are not really going to help you overall in the 30 minutes. But yeah, I think it might be more just getting as much time on the track in as possible so they're able to get, you just want every advantage you can get, really, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You just want every little advantage you can get, and we see it quite often in the series that we run the pit stops in. So supercars, GT3 when we do the pit stop requirement races, there's always a bit of pit stop practice involved. There's always a good thing that's been happening lately is the start line practice. Now, I'm not sure if these guys don't need to do start line stuff because they're just cutting some laps. I think it's a rolling start if you haven't watched the series before. So they're just pressing on, I think, and just maybe they're just trying a few different setup ideas. Maybe they've gone from essentially a qualifying sort of setup to a more race spec setup, just to try and make sure that they can make the fuel last and tyres last. There were a few drivers that were commenting earlier in the week that they were struggling a little bit just to make the fuel last, especially the front engine cars. So that's the BMWs, the Mercedes, those are the front engine cars. I think the Nissan falls into that one as well. They all were starting to fall maybe about a half a lap short. But it's going to be all those little 1%ers, I think, Bagsy, that you can maybe find a way to save your fuel if your race run timing is sort of correct. That you can find a way to claw that back. So little things like rolling out of the throttle and braking a little bit earlier and sort of not working the car too hard. You can get those 1%ers right. You might find yourself in the box seat to capitalise on any potential issues if others are in a bit of fuel trouble.
Exactly, and it's one of those things where, as much as it's a track where we're talking about how fast it is and how fuel hungry it's going to be, it also means it's a track where it is very easy to save fuel because there are so many spots where you can just let off the throttle a bit earlier and just have your car sip away at the fuel instead of chugging it as you enter a braking zone. So it's and something else that we haven't really touched on but the drivers were talking about is tyre temperatures here, which could become an issue towards the end of the stint because apparently some drivers have been having trouble with tyres overheating.
Yeah, it is very, very hot, I must say, with the track temps. I think they're up in the high 30s, low 40s, which about this time of year over in France, it is sort of those temperatures. So it's not surprising to see that it is quite hot. I mean, you can look at visually. The circuit looks very, very dry. It's very, very bright. I think it's like about 2:30 or something in the afternoon, if memory serves me correct. Let's have a look at what it is time-wise for the warm-up now, and yeah, it's actually 2 o'clock in the afternoon is the start time for the race. So right in the sort of the middle and the heat of the afternoon. That means tyres are going to get hot, brakes are going to get hot if you haven't got your brake ducting set up right. Following another car will become quite difficult then as well, because you're going to end up following cars that are going to be making heat. You're going to be sitting in the draft. You're going to be the car itself is going to be getting very hot. So there's a few different permutations to factor in with the strategy for this one. If you want to follow somebody, you probably don't want to be following them for too long. You probably want to be maybe getting a little bit of a slipstream, but you sort of want to be ducking out on the straights to make sure you've got enough cool air going into those brakes and that you're not stressing the car out enough. Well, no, you're not stressing the car out too much, I should say. As the clock goes 0, and looks like we get set for the last few laps to be completed in practice, and then we're going to be underway as Nathan Higginson does his best Brent Foley, as he always does, gets the back end out. Same spot that Tim Redmond had his issue in qualifying and gave the wall a big wallop. The same way that Pete Savage came and gave Will Devonish a wallop on the bum back at the Nürburgring, Bagsy, as you rightly called it, which we're now putting down as commentary moment of the year at this rate.
I have my moments. They're few and far between, but I do have them.
They do, yeah. It's I think the commentary moments of the year of it's sort of become a bit of fun. Like we started doing that last year with the awards dinner, and there was the I think I've woken up my wife, but I don't care. That came out of my mouth at one point, and there was quite a few of them as well. Lewis Wedding with the screaming about the blown engine in the closing stages of the Bathurst 500 last year as well.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot of great commentary moments to come out of the ASR ranks, and I think that one, yeah, definitely up there with regards to commentary moments of the year. Well, it looks like we are about to tick over into the race session, and indeed here
Clock has been
go.
at 0 for quite a while.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a holdout timer. I think it's more for the cars that are on track to make sure they can actually complete their any cars that are on a flying lap, and it sort of gives about a 3-minute timer from the time the last car crosses to register what is a fast lap, and then it counts down. It just gives guys time to get back to the pits. It's good too, because when it comes to qualifying, it doesn't disrupt drivers that are on qualifying lap runs, and then it has it cut out part way through the session. That's the last thing you want, especially cross the line with only a couple of seconds left to go. You get halfway around the lap, you don't want to be pinged and then have the server tick over and you have your lap ruined. So we'll see how everything goes after this one. Looks like our pole sitter is currently sitting on the grid, waiting for everything to get going to tick into the first race. There he is on screen, and just waiting on the rest of the field. You can see them all starting to fill in. There's Greg Turra, who's been pushed back to third, just off to the right of screen there. You can just see the front of the McLaren, and we'll roll through your grid with Bagsy as we tour the circuit for the formation lap.
Thank you. Now, once again, Damon Woods is on pole for this race here at Magny-Cours, and he has he not been on pole since he's rejoined? I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and check, but he's been absolutely dominating this series since he's joined partway through the season. Alongside him is Steve Bolger, our current championship leader, with Greg Turra right behind him. Termo is in third in the championship, fourth on the track, and will be wanting to get a win here and try and claw back some of the points he's had lost to Bolger and Turra in these last few rounds. Tim Redmond starts from fifth with Luke Rosella alongside him in sixth. Stevie Kokai ended up down in seventh, not the best qualifying for him considering the pace he had in practice. Noah Tara down in 8th, 4th in the championship, and in a bit of a battle with Lewis Wedding for that place. But Lewis starting down in 16th gives Noah Tara a good chance to build some decent points on him. Steve Warwick starts from 9th with Nathan Higginson for company in 10th. Taipan in the Lamborghini starts in 11th, along with RSM Latino in his GTR in 12th. Luke Amerton is in 13th. Brian Walsh starts from 14th. Rhodey is in 15th. Rhodey's in 15th. Lewis Wedding is in 16th. Glenn Miles, who's a bit out of position at the moment, starts in 17th. And Ben Hall rounds out the grid in 18th. Lots of GTRs populating the back of the grid today. Sorry, I forgot. Got Lachlan Burke in 19th. They're all out of position here, and it's making my job a lot harder.
Yeah, you're not wrong. There's a few cars definitely out of position there. I think Luke Rosella and Tim Redmond are on the same row, so they're going to be okay. But a bit further back, there's a few drivers that maybe didn't get going off the start, and they needed to sort of settle down and get themselves back into position quick, because now they're being told to form up, so the safety car will accelerate away. Look from Damon Woods is on board. There he goes. He'll be off at the next couple of corners, so Woods just needs to hang back a little bit here as the safety car goes in, and the start-finish line, which is the ASR gantry above the start-finish line, is where they go. There's been a 10-second stop-go issued to Brian Walsh. That'll be for being out of position, so that's not going to be revoked. They're going to have to deal with that one afterwards. You can see they're still sorting themselves out at the back. And we've got the green flag now, and we are underway for the first of these 30-minute sprint races. Woods comfortably has the whole shot into turn one. Got the jump beautifully and jumps away from the field, and already puts a couple of car lengths quite handsomely on... I was about to say, there's a bit of a... looks like there might be a reset going on here, I think. So
everything
there is. Looks like the session has been revoked back to warm-up. So I think that might have been for... maybe a couple of drivers that may have been out of position for that one. So I think Lewis Wedding is in there. He's definitely not happy. He's reset that for us, and looks like we're going to go into a holding pattern. So as much as we got through all of that, I think it would be with a few of the drivers that might have been out of position there that probably maybe have been given an extra life, I think, here.
Yeah, Damon Woods is not going to be happy because he had the perfect start, and it is... unfortunately been completely taken away from him.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong there, and I think a few drivers might be getting spoken to at the moment about behaving themselves with regards to being in position. I did see when you were rolling through the grid, Glenn Miles, for one, was going quite wide at the last corner to try and make sure that he could actually try and fall back into position, but drivers weren't sort of cooperating, for want of a better word.
Yeah, it was. I got slightly confused because there are people may or may not know that the way we cycle through cars, you can only go one at a time, and so when you're expecting one car to be there and then a different one is there, it gets a little bit confusing, especially when it comes to what position they're in.
Correct. So there's a few little bits and pieces being sort of worked out at the moment. I believe there might actually be a little bit of grid shuffling just sort of going on here, just to make sure everybody's in the right spot. And we've still got the 19 runners, so I'm not sure who's actually is going to be at fault for this one, but we'll soon find out. So I'm actually just having a quick look just to make sure everything is in order, just with the grid wise. It looks like that's sort of going to be the case. And just double checking that the order is actually the same as what it was in quali. So yes, it is. So that all looks fine from my perspective. I think it's just a case of making sure that we're all good to go. It looks like we have gone on to the start of the next session, and it looks like Glenn Miles might have been shuffled to the back of the grid. I'm not sure. So there might be two issues at play here. One, if Glenn may be asked to be moved to the back of the grid and wasn't moved to the back of the grid, maybe that might have been what was going on, or B, it's a case of being put out of position. So either way, the grid is just going to be sort of slightly altered, because a number of the drivers that are at the back actually didn't set a lap time. So remember, Glenn Miles didn't set a lap time, Lewis Wedding didn't set a lap time, and then you had Lachlan Burke and Ben Hall they had set, or they came in late as well. So all those drivers that didn't set lap times actually end up, it's sort of randomised with how it all goes down. So let's hope we can try this again in a few seconds, Bagsy.
Yes, fingers crossed it will make things a little bit easier. As we see, we've got Damon Woods here sitting on the line, and off he goes. So we'll go through the grid again, but this time the abridged version as they follow the ASR safety car as it wiggles its way into the first corner. We've got Damon Woods in first, Steve Bolger second, Greg Tara starts from third alongside Termo. Tim Redmond's on the third row with Luke Rosella. Fourth row, Xavier Kokai with Noah Tara. Steve Warwick and Nathan Higginson make up the fifth row. Taipan and RSM Latino are on row 6. Row 7, Luke Emerton and Brian Walsh. Row 8 is Brody and Lewis Wedding way down the back. Row 9, Lockie Burke and Ben Hall. And all on his lonesome in row 10, Glenn Myers.
What I'm noticing this time as well, Bagsy, is look at the whole field. They're actually 2 by 2 for the whole field. So I think maybe there's been a bit of discussion around, okay, well, if you guys can't follow in single file and get it right and then get into position coming out of the Chateau d'Eau, which is probably what they would have been told to do, then you're just going to have to run the whole lap side by side and you have to give each other a bit of space. So that's a little bit of an interesting point. But I mean, coming up to some of these chicanes, they might have to go single file. Certainly going to be a difficult task to get through the last chicane in 2 by 2 fashion. So there'll have to be one car that goes through and then one car that comes through quickly behind it and forms up next door to it. So that's all going to be on Damon Woods' shoulders to control the pace through that last complex and to make sure that everybody can get through onto the start-finish line correctly before they attempt to make a move. So just following a little bit too close to the safety car. Let's have a look at the speeds that they're doing. It looks like they're up around the 108, 109 kilometre mark at the moment, just as they're following the safety car around, which sort of is meant to do about 100 kilometres an hour. And then when they come up to this part of the course, this is the Chateau d'Eau now, this is where Woods just needs to back it off a little bit, let the safety car escape, because the lights have gone out. She does quite nicely actually, so that safety car is slowly disappearing off. Speed is just starting to back off now as they come down to this last complex. Safety car goes in. Hopefully, fingers crossed, this will be the start of the race we're looking forward to. Here we go, they'll get through the final couple of corners. Everybody starts to line up, everybody looks like they're through. That looks pretty good to me. Let's get down to business and let's go racing. Clean start. Clean start this time. No penalties. Damon Woods, again, the whole shot. So second verse, same as the first for car number 56, and off he goes.
Once again, Greg Tara got the jump on Bolger and straight up into second. Termo trying to go around the outside of Bolger, but ends up behind Luke Rosella. So awful positioning there, unfortunately, for him. Damon Woods, as you said, up the front. Termo getting overtaken by both Luke Rosella and looks like Redmond as well. 3 wide into the Adelaide hairpin. Redmond's going to take 2 for the price of 1 at the moment. He's got the inside line to the next chicane as well. They're all over the place, but Termo is not going to give up on that place just yet, and he has the better drive off the corner and retains his 4th place.
Oh, Redmond spilt! Redmond spilt, and that is the second time that that's happened to Tim Redmond. I'm going to try and see if we can find him. Has he hit the wall, or is he...
He's down the right at the back.
Here we go. So what happened in this occasion? Did he get spilt, or did he do this all on his own? It's the second time that this has happened to Tim Redmond in a matter of 20 minutes. And this was a bit of a powder keg just waiting to go boom. I'm wondering, did he get a bit of a helping hand here, or... Nope, curb again. So that's the second occasion he's done that. So lucky for him, this time he doesn't hit the wall, but he hit that yellow sausage curb with the similar amount of force to what he did in qualifying, and the result, unfortunately, is the same.
people who are having good results. Lewis Wedding is up 9
Oh,
positions.
we got Rosella's
Make that
gone
10
off.
positions.
Rosella's gone off
Kokai's
as well. There's a number of drivers off, and they're all down at the final complex as well. So again, I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe someone got into the back of Luke Rosella. Again, on the Endurance Chat Media replay, there was some shenanigans going on here. Rosella had been dropped. I think maybe he has been served here potentially by the Mercedes. Here we go. Oh, that's a late move. Oh, Rosella was lucky not to be on his lid. And that's a big brain fade move, I think, from Kokai there. The move was never going to happen, but he was out of control. Given the spot back, but that's cost Rosella a fair bit of time there, and that's going to catch the eye of stewards for sure.
Yeah, and now it means that Rosella and Redmond are down with Rhodey and Miles. Hall, RSM Latino, they've got this massive pack that they're trying to navigate through. Lewis Wedding is up 9 positions now. He's in 7th already, and he looks like he's about to make it. Yeah, he's just past Higginson into 6th.
Higginson sidestepped the argument there. I didn't think he wanted any part in it, and that's probably a smart call just to let him go and run his own race. So Wedding up to 6th. He's managed to avoid the carnage so far. Oh, speaking of carnage, Rhodey ran in the background. Glenn Miles ran in the background. Everybody's pushing the limit a little bit too hard, I think, at the moment, and a few drivers are starting to pay the penalty for doing so.
Oh, Brian Walsh has had a big trip off onto the grass. Oh, and he's hit a apparently invisible wall. That is very unfortunate for him.
Yep,
oh, and Glenn Miles is having a bit of a trek onto the grass as well. There's poor Brian Walsh.
I think it's more a case of Walsh is actually he had to get reverse gear to get onto the circuit there. I think it's more a case of the dip in the surface or the actual road, and not so much the road, the dirt that's over there is what caught him out there. So he's taken a little bit of a trip or an excursion, as we like to call it. And everything else, well, the leaders are sort of starting to kick away here. The top half a dozen cars are really separated hard. The next spots we're looking at are last 2 spots in the 10. So here's the recovering Luke Rosella looking to put a move on Luke Emerton, and then looking behind it, here comes Redmond, and here comes Kokai as well. So these guys are all starting to recover. There goes Rosella, and the argument sidestepped by Luke Emerton there. And Lockie Burke as well sort of has a bit of a delayed departure off the Adelaide hairpin. And he loses a spot to Rosella as well.
Yeah, old mate Hall Ben Hall had tried to get back on Kokai in the Adelaide hairpin as well. Very bold. Kokai is in a GTR guest sandwich and he's had, he's actually just behind this, so Rosella up ahead. But yeah, they're absolutely scrappy.
Oh, Redmond are gone. Again. Tim Redmond, he's made another disappearing act off to the side of the circuit. That one is out on the exit of 180 degrees, so twice. I'm not sure what to make of it.
He's not having a race to remember.
No, definitely not. Going to be some setup changes, I think, in that car for the second race. He's definitely having a bit of a torrid time at the moment. Presses on from P14. Here's the recovering Kokai, so he's been getting his ears boxed in a little bit. He's been boxing on with a few drivers as he tries to recover those positions lost. He's 5 minutes into this race already, and already fireworks going off everywhere. You can look at cars off the circuit. Plenty of action. Going to try and go the long way round here at Estoril is Xavier Kokai, but he's not going to get that done at that part of the circuit. No, it's Hurra in the pits. What's going on there, Bagsy?
Yeah, I was just noticing that Wedding had gone up another position, and I have no idea why.
This is the fuel stop.
Noah Tara's in there.
This is the fuel stop. There's no tyres in that. I don't think he thinks he can make it. Maybe he's not 100% sure. Maybe he's playing a long game here.
But it's such a strange decision to make because it's like, just save the fuel throughout the race. You should be able to quite easily if there's not enough fuel for.
Or did he make a fueling mistake?
Potentially, but if that's going to be a issue for all of the front runners, in all the front engined car runners, I should say, well then that's looking good for Steve Bolger and Lewis Wedding. If the others are going to have to pit around them. So I'd be very surprised.
I'm looking to see if there's been another stopper as well. I think Steve Warwick had a poor first lap, but it doesn't look like he was in the pits. Maybe he actually got caught up in an accident somewhere, because he's all the way down in last. He's actually behind Noatara on the road by some considerable margin at the moment. So I thought there might have been maybe an extra car or two that had come in and take a stop, but no, so far Noatara is the only caller on pit road. And where's the next little battle? So this has really settled down over the last sort of 2 or 3 minutes, as Rosella's gone backwards again. He was right up there. Then he got knocked down. He sort of recovered a little bit, and I think he's made a mistake. There's Glenn Miles off the exit of the last complex, so he's made a mistake. This is a tricky circuit. We said at the start of the night it might be a fan favourite, but it is a real challenge, this circuit. Long straights, chicanes, hairpins, it's got everything. It's got a big mix of just about every single corner that you can imagine. You know, medium speed, low speed, high speed. You've got to have your wits about you at this place, and I think it's starting to catch a few people out.
Certainly is. At the front, the gap between Damon Woods is holding steady at the moment. I'm wondering if that's a Damon Woods fuel-saving thing, or if that's a Greg Torres pushing harder than he's going to be able to maintain sort of thing, because it is it's basically stayed exactly the same for the last lap or so.
Going into a bit of just I think a general rhythm here. I'm looking at the fastest laps, and the last laps around for these two gentlemen out in front, they're about 0.3 of a second off their best pace. So I think they're just sort of settling in for the journey here. Let's have a look at what Woods' time is this time around. It's 38.5 compared to the previous up to 38.2, and then 38.5 for Greg Tara, and he was a 38.5 last time around as well. So I think this is now a rhythm game for Woods, for Tara, and for Steve Bolger as well, who was a 38.9 that last time around. So he was a little bit slower. Fuel mileage maybe coming into play here, and then maybe putting a little bit of the saving game on.
Yeah, Temple 141, which is 3 seconds off the pace of everyone around him, which means he's potentially going to fall. I think he made a mistake in the final sector from the timing screen.
Yeah, he did.
Bruce Wedding had a track cut. Down in 13th, Luke Rosella set a purple middle sector, so that's interesting.
And the fastest lap of the race.
And the fastest lap
of the race now, so that's
very interesting.
37.6, so now that sort of begs a question about, if I have a look at Luke Rosella to see what happened. Looks like he actually, he may have toured the lap. No, he had a bad middle sector. That's the lap that he fell down the order. He had a bad middle sector, so I was looking to see whether or not he had actually been into the pits, but it doesn't look like he has, so...
Luke Rosella with the 137.6, that's significantly faster than what anyone else has done so far. 4 tenths of a second faster than Damon Woods' best lap time. Where did that come from?
Yeah, on the last lap alone, he was nearly a full second quicker than the race leader, but it's still a full 4 tenths of a second quicker than Woods' best lap at the moment. So he's pressing on a little bit here. The next car in the line for him is actually RSM Latino. He's a bit further up the order, so he's actually where he started. I think he's one of the very few drivers that sort of kept his nose clean at the moment. Navigating the Chateau
and Lewis Wedding also managed to keep his toes clean to the tune of 11 positions.
That's his top mover and shaker at the moment, up 11 positions from
and closing on Termo. Like it would not be wrong to count out a podium for Lewis Wedding. Admittedly, he's 7 seconds off the podium at the moment, but there is every chance that one of these guys at the front only takes one tiny mistake. We've seen Damon Woods himself, admittedly, when he's been pushing, hit that wall coming out of the final corner. So it can happen to the best. It can happen to anyone. So definitely no way of counting out Wedding from a podium here today.
No, definitely not. So he could be playing a strategy game here as well, because of the last time. So all the top 4 were in the 38. So Woods 38.4, 38.8, 38.8 for Bolger and for Termo as well. So they were all 38.8s. And then Wedding was a 39.2. So he just dropped he made some gains on Termo. He just dropped away a little bit in the last lap. And we get a good read on the sector times at the moment. So Termo's got the advantage on Wedding in sector 1 to the tune of 2 tenths of a second this current lap. They're coming up to the second sector intermediate in the next few seconds. Termo's done that in 42.4, and Wedding's going to do that in a wait for the time of the screens to update here for us. He's done that in a what's he done? I think he's actually, might be a timing glitch going on here, I think, as well. Because he's just dropped down the order. So we might have to do this off of the lap times themselves. 39 flat for Termo. And I think when he got a track violation, that's why he did. He got a track violation in Sector 2. So he did make a gain. I can tell you now, he made a gain time-wise. But it wasn't a huge amount. It was only a little bit, but he got stung in Sector 2 somewhere.
Rosella followed up his fastest lap with a lap that was less than half a tenth off of that one, and he set a new purple first sector as well, which is I'm not sure where all this pace has suddenly come from. He's past RSM Latino now, and he doesn't have a chance at the front guys because he's 40 seconds down on them after an incident that we're not sure of, but it finished, that happened off screen. But if he had this pace at the moment, he would be genuinely threatening the leaders with, if he was up there. It's sort of a little bit surprising.
It is a little bit surprising. I think it's more a case of he sort of feels like maybe he's had his race ruined. He hasn't got anything to lose, so he's just pressing on here. There's a bit of a battle going on here for 6th, 7th and 8th. So Nathan Higginson has just been getting harassed by the recovering Xavier Kokai, who's now moved up to position 6. And Higginson was a little bit out of control off of 180 degrees. And look at them all. They're all really exploiting the limits as far as they can on the exit of the Imola chicane. And Higginson not wanting to give this one up at all. Lockie Burke's in there just waiting to pick the bones of this carcass that might materialise in the next few seconds as Higginson sends it down the inside at the last couple of corners here.
Oh, Burke's run wide. He could have taken advantage, but he's run wide.
He has. He's lost a car length or two there for a brief moment, and Higginson reclaims P6. So these guys continuing to fight on and into the halfway mark of this 30-minute sprint. And it is Mercedes from BMW and Ferrari, and a bit further back, this little battle. A new fast lap again for Rosella, as very, very wide goes Kokai, and that might be all the incentive that Lockie Burke needs to make this pass. Kokai immediately to the defensive. Higgins, where are you going, Higo? That's the grass.
I think Higginson was too busy looking in his rear vision mirror at what was happening behind him. He forgot that there's a bit of a kink on that straight. Kokai holds position, but they're both close in on Higginson due to his slight track extending on the curved straight.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's probably jumping for joy because he's seen what was going on through the rear view mirror, and then all of a sudden forgot there was a corner there. That's a trick we've seen a few too many times over the years. And again,
with a very interesting line through the hairpin there, and closed him right up on Kokai mid-corner. And it was it's definitely... You'd expect, big slide there for Kokai. Is Burke going to be able to capitalise around the outside? He is not, but he has set himself up nicely if he gets good drive off the corner here to do exactly what Higo did just the lap before. He's a bit further back though, so he's going to have to be very brave on the brakes if he wants to make something of this. Kokai positions the car nicely, and Burke thinks better of it, but more locking up. And Lockie Burke, I thought he was running wide, but it seems to be that's just the line he prefers into that.
Oh, Higginson smacked the wall!
Higginson hit the wall.
He smacked the wall. He's the third car to do that tonight, and he surrenders. How's he kept going? Surely he's got major damage from that one. Worthy of a replay on the screen here. Third car tonight to do this. First two were in qualifying, and Higginson again. This is just inattentive driving. He was wide through the last couple of corners. First, that looks like he was okay. Oh, he got a wiggle on. Hit the curb. He just at the wrong angle spat the car out and wallops that wall. And surely he's got
needs to buy
a lottery ticket. Yeah, he's the luckiest man alive because he was going to be first on the scene and very nearly T-boned that 00 HME BMW. So out of all of that, Higginson has only lost 3 spots. So he's gone from 6th to 9th. Burke's gone through, Redmond's gone through, and then Kokai's now got a margin.
So you may see that Burke is only just ahead of Higo at the moment, because after that incident, Kokai and Burke went side by side into the first corner, and Burke got elbowed out into the gravel on the first corner. So that's why he's lost just as much time as Higo has. and they're both behind Tim Redmond now, who's recovering from that first lap and third lap incidents that he had. But Xavier Kokai now free and clear, 4 seconds ahead of this pack.
He certainly is. The race leader is actually not too far away from catching some lap traffic. So Steve Warwick is the man in the queue, and then you've got Glenn Miles just in front of him to the tune of about 6 seconds up the road. So with a minute 40 odd roughly on the lap count, sorry, on the lap time. You'll probably have a look here from the onboard. There you go. You see Steve Warwick just disappearing into the, and now on the exit of the Nürburgring chicane. So he's probably about another lap or two from losing a lap to the race leader. And then there's Greg Tara in the background. He's just been chipping away just a little bit. He turned his personal best lap last time around, but Damon Woods also turned his best lap last time around as well. So
Wedding's had a spin.
Lewis Wedding.
All right. He's, I believe it was the Nürburgring chicane. I was about to mention he was only a second off of Turmo, had been closing in well, but he's had an incident now, he's 4 seconds down.
Yep, so he's definitely had a big issue there, and it looks like the second sector split timing will probably confirm that in the next few seconds as he comes up to that intermediate now. And looks like he may have actually been stung for the track violation, I think, as well.
He's going to have to be careful because that's at least 3 now.
Yeah, definitely 2 by my count, possibly 3. It looks like Turmo might have been done for it as well. So we're waiting for the times to update on the screen here. ASR League.live.races.com. And yes, Turmo looks like he got a track violation. And actually, Wedding's registered a lap time, so maybe that's just a timing glitch for us there. But Turmo definitely stung for a track violation that last tour.
Because of the incident that Higginson had. Oh, Rosella's hit the wall, the same wall that Higginson hit as I was just talking about it, and that's a promising drive that has come to an end from the looks of it.
That is,
yeah,
and that's
Luke Rosella.
And that is a non-finish. So here we go again. The outside wall claims its 4th victim. Actually, it's not the 4th victim, it's the 3rd victim, because it's the 2nd time Rosella has whacked that wall tonight. He did suffer the same fate as Higginson. Did he just get that little complex wrong? Looked all right, just looked like he didn't turn steering wheel hard enough.
It was very strange. It looked like he made it past the initial wall and then sort of sideswiped into the wall almost and got caught. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. I was just about to sing his praises and say he's got a good chance at really recovering this drive, but it's just instead I was talking about how he's out of the race. Is that Rhodey in the pit?
That is Rhodey in the pits. So that's the second of the pit callers, because there's Noah Tara, so he called into the pits a bit early.
Glenn Miles has hit the wall as well,
and Glenn Miles too. So off
in front of our race leader as well. That was very close.
There he is, and there's Glenn Miles. So another victim on that corner wall. So 5 hits on the wall. Going to have more hits than Elvis Presley, that wall, by the end of the day. We have to actually, that might now be the new wall of champions for here in ASR Bags. It's usually Montreal. The last corner at Montreal is the aforementioned wall of champions, and I think we've now found a new one.
Certainly has. Everyone's been taking a chunk out of it tonight. Damon Woods and Greg Tara are making their way through some traffic now as well. Glenn Miles, who did just hit that wall. Steve Warwick has got past Miles down in the battle for the back. But they are getting they're getting caught by the leaders now, who are still a fair way apart. Lewis Wedding, even after his little issue, he's already back within 2 seconds of Turmo. 9 minutes to go. Definitely a chance of him catching him.
To 180 degrees. As I said, look at these different lines. So Wedding looking for, very lucky not to loop the car there, looking for the late apex to try and get the drive out of the corner. You can see there is the gold and black GTR of Turmo just ahead as they head uphill through the MLS chicane into Chateau d'Eau for 13th time. And here's that lap traffic you're referring to, Glenn Miles in the GTR for Playboy Racing with Wildcat and Artmore. He's just ahead of these guys as well. Going to be the first to be woken up here is by Termo. Everybody getting really close to that wall. I know it's the line you've got to take, but there's so fine a margin to hitting the wall and not hitting the wall that I would have thought that it might have been a little bit easier just from the point of view of just, margin for error. Remember, it's the common analogy used by Xeris in ARWs. Have nail on the head there. The margin for error. Always have a margin for error.
Yeah, it's difficult though, because I feel like if you don't attack it, you lose so much time that if the risk reward it really is worth taking the risk every lap, because otherwise you're just gonna lose places to people who are going to nail it every time.
Yeah, there's two thoughts of or two schools of thought there, and I think your one there is probably a fair point as well. I mean, if you don't attack it, then you do lose a little bit of time, but at the same time, if you attack it too aggressively, you end up getting chewed up and spat out into time, as Luke Rosella has found out. And just looks like we're getting some word through as well. That might be Luke Rosella over and done with for the night as well. I did notice as well he's actually involved in a 24-hour of Spa race going on a bit later on this evening as well, so maybe going off to prepare himself for that one. So thanks for Hans for relaying that information through in the live chat. Damon Woods actually has, surprisingly, Bagsy, just turned his best lap of the race at a 37.7, still 0.6 of a second slower than Rosella's ultimate fastest lap of the race. But I don't know, there's the tyres maybe getting a second wind here or something for Damon Woods, and maybe for everybody as well, because Greg Tara is only about 0.3 of a second off his ultimate best lap. Steve Bolger turned his best lap on that last tour as well in third.
I think these are the lap times of people who realise they've saved enough fuel and they can just go for it to the end. And Dame Woods is just like, yep, all right, off I go. I am going to enjoy winning this race now ahead of the rest of you. But I think how far off he was not far off Luke. Oh, actually no, he was. Luke Rosella actually set a 1:37.1.
Yes. So yes,
in the end, so
0.6 at the moment is the margin there.
Hopefully he comes back for the next race, because I think if he's able to qualify anywhere near the top 5 or 6, and he'd have a very good shot at the race win if he can maintain that pace.
He definitely would. Yeah, the important thing to note here too is with Bolger sitting in third place and Greg Tara sitting in second, that margin's going to come down between the two of them by 2 points after this race. So it's 25 points for the win, 22 points for second, and 20 points for third. So it'll be a 3-point margin at the top.
Nether, if I could just direct you to 9th, 10th and 11th place. We've got Ben Hall, Luke Emerton and Nathan Higginson all having a good old battle at the moment. They're coming up to out of the Adelaide hairpin.
That's actually a good pass by Ben Hall there, actually, down at the chicane. And Higginson very squirrely on the brakes. And
keep in mind, Higginson in a car that is probably damaged from his impact with the wall.
Yes, correct. We shouldn't forget that. He's probably fighting a little bit of a handicap battle here with that particular car. It depends on where the hit was as well. The damage doesn't, we can't see visually any damage on the car, but it definitely looks like he's
it looks like he has a lot of speed over Emerton, and he's just thrown it down the inside there. And fairly easy position made there. It's I know it's a bit of a meme, but that BMW is so much bigger than that Audi.
It certainly is. Just the height alone, and the Audi does sit very low. I mean, we've stood next to some of these cars, the Bathurst 12-hour, and
yeah,
it does sit very low in general. Higginson, I thought, was heading for the wall there again, getting all out of shape through that final chicane, and he holds it together for another lap. So what we've got left on the clock here, just on 4 minutes. Damon Woods, our race leader, is just coming up to the Chateau d'Eau now, so he's going to get probably going to get at least 3 more. So minute 4. Let's just use the minute 37 a lap. So 3 minutes on the clock. Yeah, I think we're going to get probably 4 laps. I think here. So around the corner for the final for the 16th time, and he'll cross the start-finish line with about 3 minutes 35 to go.
Yeah, so 3 more laps from here seems about right. As the laps wind down, though, the gaps are winding down in several places as well. We've got Steve Bolger closing in on Greg Tara, Lewis Wedding closing in on Termo for 4th, Xavier Kokai and Tim Redmond. Tim Redmond has recovered very well to be fighting for 6th at the moment with Kokai. And then we still have the battle between Ben Hall, Higo, and Emerton, although that is starting to spread out a bit now. And Noah Tara, all the way down in 12th, unfortunately, after that pit stop. He's not been able to get back very far.
Well, he's still on the lead lap, importantly, so should anything go wrong with anybody ahead of him, so he's got Luke Emerton, he's got Nathan Higginson and the next 2 cars in the train. They're only 10 seconds ahead, and Ben Hall as well, so if anything goes wrong for those guys, he will catch up. And some of those drivers, Ben Hall, Nathan Higginson, Luke Emerton, they're doing 142s. Noah Tara's doing 139, so it's not out of the imagination that he might actually catch these guys. Here he is on screen, the car 26, and Taipan coming along for the ride as well. I think actually Tara may have just passed Taipan in the last little bit, because the lap count for Taipan actually is a little bit better that time. It was a 140.9, it was a 42 prior to that. And Noah Tara's lap that time around again, 39 flat relative to 40 and 40s and 39s for the guys ahead. He was faster than the 3 guys ahead of him again that last lap.
Yeah, he was. He's still chugging along. It's just a shame that he had to do that pit stop. The Higginson Hall Emerton battle has, I said it was splitting up. They've got the band back together again.
Here they are.
Teams are reunited and they're fighting once again.
Last 2 steps inside the 10.
Oh, very, very wide line for Hall, and Emerton's like, thank you very much. I'll just take this inside line that is shorter and faster and block you off from accelerating ahead of me.
Yep, take the traditional
Easy
line,
does it.
and off they go.
Ben Hall, though, is in a GTR and is going to fire it up the inside into the chicane. Oh, that is a very bold move. It has made Emerton have to rethink what he's doing in terms of his line, but Emerton holds strong, I should say, and continues to keep Hall behind him.
Yeah, for the moment, as they're heading down to the final corner.
See, you may have just seen in the background Noah Tara in the background there, as Emerton runs very wide and will lose a position to Ben Hall again. And while these guys fight, Noah Tara looms in the background, could potentially salvage a top 10 here if these guys keep it up like this.
He'll have Emerton in sight now, so Noah Tara this time around, and actually got a track violation that time around, so a few drivers starting to use up their limits.
Wedding's on the back of Turbo now as well.
All right, so that's the battle
Everything's
for
kicking
4th
off.
and 5th. It's all starting to come up. Lewis Wedding at the moment, 4th place is on the cards. He can smell blood in the water like a shark, and sharks aren't brown. In this case, it is for Turbo. Yeah, cue the Jaws theme music.
I'm sure there's a brown species of shark.
Oh, probably is a brown shark or whatever it is, maybe. I'm not sure, but
You've got a great white shark, you've got a tiger shark, surely there's a brown shark.
I'm sure there is probably too, but in Turbo's case, it probably would be a brown stain in his underpants right now if he gets it all wrong in his defence of position here. Time has gone to 0, and the race leader is on his 19th lap, so we're going to get 20 for this opening race.
Bulger's going on Tara.
And Bulger on Tara as well. So here we go.
Yeah, Wedding goes past Turbo.
Here it is.
Greg Tara on the inside of Bulger. And Greg Tara.
Over and under, and not quite. So couldn't get the acceleration off the corner, but Bulger is looming large in the BMW's rear mirrors as well. So it looks like Woods has got this one settled with a lap and change to go.
I think they may have been coming together with Higginson and Ben Hall, because Noah Tara's got past both of them, is in the top 10. And everything is absolutely kicking off at the moment.
And Wedding's now gone through on Turbo, most importantly as well. Looks like he did that actually did that in the first couple of corners. So that's all over and done with for
yeah, we had that one
there.
Come through on the broadcast as well, I believe, just as we switched away at the right time. Ben Hall in the pits now, so that's made it easier for...
He has. A couple of drivers struggling to make it now, and just not 100% sure they can.
I think RSM Latino has run out of fuel.
I think he has too. He's on the...
Or I think he might be waiting for our race leader, who's just crossed the line.
Here
Damon Woods.
There it is. So Woods crosses the line. Latino was in back a shot. There he is. Actually, he was... looks like he has Ben Hall coming down the pit lane, so he is on the move again. Here's this battle for 2nd and 3rd, and then you've got Hall behind And
Almost pit.
And Turmo's in as well, so some of the GTRs are struggling to make it. Here we go, Steve Bolger, right under the rear wing of Turret, pulls to the inside.
RSM Latino's up ahead of this, going very slowly.
No,
it's Ben Hall.
That's
Sorry,
Ben Hall.
it's Ben Hall.
That's Ben Hall. He's come out of the pits. Latino's actually come out behind the battle, and Turret concedes. So Turret concedes to Steve Bolger for second place on the rostrum in this race. On we go. So Turret now will lose a couple of points in the championship fight to Bolger, so that swings around. That makes it a 7-point margin for Bolger at the top of the standings as it stands right now. Damon Woods with a half a lap to go. This will be his third win in
so many
4
people
races. But yeah, what's the
No.
traffic like in pit lane? So you've got Glenn Miles is in, Rhodey we know has
Lockie
been in,
Burke's
Lockie
in.
Burke's in. So about half a dozen cars have all toured the lane late. So some of them haven't been able to manage their fuel and make this work. That's actually promoted a few people inside the 10 that wouldn't be there. So Taipan's now moved into the 10. Noah Tara's 9th. And Luke Emerton's in 8th. So some of those drivers that were a bit further up the order that have needed to stop. Oh, as Woods backs it into the last couple of corners. So he's going to get the chocolates for race 1. And it's not going to be by much. Have a look at this. He's had to fuel save in the last little bit. He's not going to win it by much. Because Bolger was coming like a freight train and only 1.1 seconds off the back of Damon Woods in the end. At the end. So Bolger nearly played that strategy card perfectly. Woods' last lap was a 42.7, and Bolger was absolutely on it after he must have got his fuel saving done really early in the piece after that one. So there'll be some head scratching going on at Evolution Racing Team about what they need to do to stop a repeat of that happening again. Greg Tara gets home for 3rd, Wedding for 4th. Turmo crawls across the line for 5th. What was his last lap? Was a 42.6. Tim Redmond is just going to make it for 6th place. Rhodey's a lap down, so he's done a good job there. Emerton and Noah Tara, they're battling for position here. So this is for 7th and 8th. Lockie Burke is now up to 9th. Kokai down to 10th. I think as Kokai ran the field.
Emerton's gone deep. Emerton's gone deep. Noah Tara does a little bit of a wiggle in front of him. It's going to be a drag race to the line, but the BMW is going to have all the grunt there and the fuel because he's taken that pit stop. 7th place for Noah. Good recovery drive ahead of Emerton.
Well done. Luke Emerton into 8th. Hasn't been a while since we saw him in GT3s as well. Lockie Burke will get home for 9th. Taipan is going to be in the 10, and Xavier Kokai's out of this one. He hasn't actually finished. He's going to be a lap down. And I think he might be out of fuel here, Bagsy. I've got a sneaking suspicion, so I'm not sure how that's going to pan out. We've got drivers that have, I think there he is in the garage, and he's actually the first of the cars that's on the, that's one lap down. So I think he's going to
RSM,
get points.
He was on the lead lap. He was on the lead lap still, I believe.
Yep. So
he didn't complete the final one. RSM Latino didn't end up finishing. Despite we saw him crawling across the line, I guess he thought that it was the last lap that Damon Woods was about to finish, and he would just be able to get across the line and be a lap down, but it wasn't. So he unfortunately ran out of fuel. But Rhodey, Walsh, and Warwick all made it to the end.
Yep. So
there, as did Hall.
Only 3 retirements in that one. So Luke Rosella with the damage, and then you ended up with Kokai. It looks like he was out of fuel. It looks like RSM Latino was out of fuel as well. So that's how it finishes. So top 3 in that one. You've got Woods, Bolger, and Tara. So, oh well, this is starting to become a bit of a 3-horse race for a lot of the points at the moment, as we're just waiting to see if we can get our top 3 up into the booth for a quick chat between races. So just queuing them up at the moment. So what a wild race that one was, Bagsy. There was definitely a few interesting ones in that one. And
it all sort of came to a head right at the end there. There were too many battles for us to watch at once.
It definitely was. So we'll let's go with the race 1 winner for this one. So Damon Woods gets his 3rd win out of 4 races contested so far. Didn't get the one at Imola in the last lap pass, but Damon, looked like it might have been a close run thing there at the end on fuel.
She was just a bit close there, Nether. Crossed the line with like 8 seconds of fuel.
Well, it The margin looked like it was healthy for a good part of that race. The traffic sort of played very kindly to you. And then just in that last little bit, I guess you're just maybe taking that insurance policy just because you not quite 100% sure, but maybe a little bit of head scratching going on between races just to make sure there's no repeat for next race.
Yeah, there will be a lot of head scratching. I came across the line to start the second to last lap, and I was like, I'm not making fuel. So that was not fun. So I spent the last 2 laps just clutching it in on every downhill and every flow section of the track, trying to save as much fuel as possible. And luckily, I was able to save enough just to stay in front of Steve.
Yeah, you certainly did. So Steve Bolger was coming like a train at the end there. Looks like he might have gone the inverse. We'll get his words on things in just a few seconds. But you've, as we said earlier, you've come into the series with quite a breath of fresh air. You are always regularly fighting away at the top, and tonight again, no exception. Well done.
Thank you very much, Nether.
Bagsy, over to the second place man, and he wasn't far away in that one at the end of it all.
Yeah, Steve Bolger at the end there. It started in second, lost the place to Greg Turr at the start, and then just decided this is a nice spot to sit for the rest of the race until the final lap, it seems.
Yeah, well, it was pretty clear. Everyone was driving to a fuel number. So for most of the race, it was just stick to the plan and couldn't really make ground, lose ground. Everyone was driving to the same number, I think. So, and then I probably hit go a little bit too late, as it seems. I had a couple of leaders left at the end, and if I'd have got Greg maybe the lap before, it might have been a bit closer. But it was pretty close. Good.
Does the fuel mileage the way and what was just said by Damon beforehand, does that give you more confidence going into the second race that you can challenge earlier and push them both harder and maybe take a bit of an easier victory next race if you go a little bit harder?
I don't know about an easier victory, but a victory this season would be lovely. Yeah, it does. I think it's pretty clear I can't get them in a straight line in normal running, so there's no way of keeping Greg behind me at the start. With the rolling start, the car just drives straight past. So it's just stay as close as I can and keep it clean and make it interesting at the end, I think.
Good luck for the next race, and with any luck, we'll be talking to you from the top step of the rostrum.
That would be nice. Cheers, mate.
And Greg, third place, and it seemed like you were you were going along fairly well throughout that, but then it was just a case of not enough fuel in the tank to be able to defend from Steve.
Yeah, had a little bit of a balk towards the end there in traffic, which happens. It wasn't anybody's fault really. And when you get a little bit hectic like that, you can kind of use a bit of extra fuel as well. But yeah, it was just knife edge fuel usage the whole way, and I probably had a couple of more less economic laps at the beginning, and then once I settled in, I was able to sort of hit a number. But yeah, no, I had a quick check before the last corner, before the last lap, to see what the gaps were, and it was just better to stay out, just crawl over and get third than end up, 4 or 5 positions back or whatever. So yeah, it's the way the front engine cars are around here. There's not a lot you can do from now until the next race, other than maybe I'll ever think about where I can probably lift in a few extra spots just to get that, maybe that extra 0.2 per lap or whatever for a bit of insurance.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be interesting to see how you and the rest sort of optimize your plans and your driving, and hopefully we'll see another nice close finish in the next race. But well done on third place this time.
Thanks very much.
Well, there we go. There's your top 3 from that last race, and I think Steve Bolger probably sums it up quite nicely there. He's going to struggle to get a win this year, but it would be nice because after coming off the World Series last year with 4 wins and 4 second places to pretty much sew it up with a round to go, he's gone a year without a victory in the GT3s, and he definitely would want another one under his belt. What we'll do, take a very short commercial break here, and we'll be back on the other side of this with qualifying session number 2. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Qualifying session number 2, not too far away for the second race of tonight's 60 minutes of Magny-Cours. Again, thank you for being with us on, as we said before, what is probably the most important day in France for the motorsport community. Le Mans 24 Hour, only 2.5 hours away from starting. I know we'll be tuning in. We'll probably be going over to say hello to Michael, the Floodman Zalavari, after this one, Bagsy, and wish him good luck. And I would say bon chance with regards to his sleep over the next 24 hours.
Yeah, well, definitely zero chance of any naps for him in the near future. Well, actually, naps are highly likely. A proper sleep cycle is not.
No, definitely not. I think it's a case of, I don't mind watching Le Mans 24 Hour, but by the same token, I do need to interject part of that with some sleep. So,
Yeah, I don't think it's something that I will most likely do myself at some point. Watch a whole 24 hours of it, and probably the same for the Nürburgring 24 hours. At some point, I will watch a whole 24 hours. Although this year's Nürburgring 24 hours, they had a lovely gap for people to sleep if they needed to, because there was no racing happening due to all the rain.
yeah, that's right. There's it looks like there's actually no chance of that at this stage for the Le Mans 24 Hour. I think in years gone by, there's been fog. I think has been the big one that's caused a few dramas in the Le Mans 24 Hour, especially in the early hours of the morning. There have been a few drivers pushing the limits in race. I think I've seen a few drivers going off at Indianapolis, and a few drivers just pushing the limits in hyperpole and qualifying over the years from the highlights that I've seen. So that'll be an interesting dynamic just to see how people have to tone that back. The lap times everybody needs to tone it back to for the long distance race. I mean, it's been a great race to see over the years with some of the finishes that we've had as well. But
can't forget. There's a big. Just looking at the pit lane, there is a large contingent of cars waiting at the start of the pit lane, headed by Nathan Higginson.
Yep.
And Damon Woods and Termo almost had an accident running into the back of those. Thought that the light had already gone green when it had not. So we've got a lot of people lined up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think.
Here we go. So off they go. So you got Higginson. Higginson went out, followed by Lockie Burke, Termo. Then the 2 ERT cars of Kokai and Woods. Luke Rosell is out there. There goes Glenn Miles. Emerton. There goes the Ferrari of Steve Bolger. Who else went out there? RSM Latino went out there in his GTR. And there goes the other GTR of Ben Hall. So there's only about 4 guys in the pits at the minute. 3. Rhodey, Taipan and Lewis Wedding are the only ones in the pits at the moment. Have a look at the gaggle on the back straight. They're all looking to find this position again. And this, we didn't see it to this degree in the opening qualifying session. It was more a case of everybody was very orderly in the way that they went out, but not this time. They've all gone out at once, and they're all now having to find a way to find a bit of air time and a bit of gap to slot into so they don't trip over each other. This is a most unusual start to a qualifying session.
Yeah, before it was just Termo and Damon Woods who were out and about at the front, but now it is just they're all jostling around like it's the actual race, and this is not going to be good for anyone's first lot of times. We got Higginson. It's like, what's the point, guys? Even Lewis Wedding has gone out at the moment, and he's not involved in this scrap. But is this going to be a similar thing that we see in Formula One, where just you get a massive backlog of people, but it doesn't look like it. They're just racing into the first corner, essentially. Someone forget to tell these guys that it's not a 10-minute, then 40-minute, 30-minute race.
No,
Xavier Kokai's done the smart thing and slowed down going to the final corner, as has Ben Hall.
There they have.
So,
yeah. The smart ones at the moment, I think, are Tim Redmond and Lewis Wedding, who are pretty much just minding their own business and staying well out of trouble, and they're just touring around and just making sure that they do all the right things to prep the car to get ready, letting all the other guys play silly buggers with each other and box it on. Looks like Luke Rosella has actually decided to stay in for this one, so that's good. So maybe it might have been me misreading the comment in the live stream from Hans saying it wasn't coming back. So he is back for the moment. Higginson sets the first times across the first sector split there, but the Xavier Kokai at the moment purple, and he's just a bit back in shot there with the headlights ablaze. So you can see that maybe him making that smart decision to just drop out of proceedings there is the right one to do. Luke Rosella now goes purple through the first sector, and then immediately supplanted by Damon Woods. So purple sector starting to appear very quickly and then be snatched away by other drivers.
Damon Woods, unfortunately, coming up behind Glenn Miles, who's just as entitled to set his fast lap, but it is not a fast lap when compared to Damon Woods. So is Glenn going to get out of the way, or is he just going to hold the line he's entitled to? I think he... Oh, Jesus, that was very close.
That was extremely
Damon
close.
was able to take the corner without catastrophe, but geez, that was a very close run thing. So Woods is still currently heading to set the fastest time.
Times. Termo with the first one across the line, so he gets a time of 37.3. Here they all come as we're watching Damon Woods on screen. Higginson looks like he got a track violation. So too I think did Lockie Burton. Kokai now goes top 36.9. Here comes Damon Woods. He should probably go pretty close to the top, and he goes straight to the top, 36.6. Not as fast as what he was in the first quali session.
Wedding spun.
And Lewis Wedding's butchered his first attempt at a lap. Tim Redmond is the next one that we want to take a bit of a vested interest in, because he has quite a nice little bit of clean air around him. 1.3 seconds down on the pole time at the moment. Greg Turra slots into 5th place. Noah Turra into 6th. Then
Warwick 7th.
Warwick 7th with Ben Hall, Arasim Latino and Brian Walsh for the moment in the 10. Only 12 times set so far out of the 19. Taipan still in the pits at the moment in the Lamborghini, and Higginson, after his track cut, gone back to the pits. Redmond goes to P7, 1.5 seconds off the top running pace as it stands right now.
Damon Woods, another purple sector. Xavier Kokai, another personal best. Xavier Kokai looking up there. Luke Rosella, hopefully he's able to pull together a lap like he did before. He does seem to be on a fast one at the moment. See if I can pick up where he is. I believe he's about to come up to the second sector split.
Here he comes now, so he's in here behind Luke Emerton, and then behind them we've got the one of the BMWs of the Turras, and...
Well, he's up on Damon Woods.
He is.
Although admittedly Damon Woods is about to set a faster time.
That's it. Now the important thing here for Roselle is Emerton is on a fast lap of his own, so he doesn't have to get out of the way here. So this is, I wouldn't say it's compromising, and as you said before, with Miles and Woods just entitled to the same part of the track. And Rosella's going to be badly held up here, so this is not going to go down well for these two as Emerton gets out of the way. But I think Rosella's going to have a... Well, he goes to P2,
oh, he still goes second.
P2, but I think... And there's a bit of a flashing of lights going on there as well with regards to all of that. So the drivers might be ticked off a little bit there, I think, with that one.
I think that was less Emerton getting out of the way, more Rosella telling him to get out the way.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there was a bit of I need to get out the way because I'm on a fast lap, but Emerton was entitled to... He was setting green sectors from what I could see as well, so he was entitled to be there. Might be a complaint lodged, but at that point in time, if he was on a fast lap, there's not much he could do about it.
Lewis Wedding about to complete his first fast lap.
Here he comes.
Of both qualifying sessions, which is something he did not manage to do. Oh, so he gets a wiggle right in that danger zone.
That's right.
He comes across the line and 4th place.
All right, so 4th as it stands now, so that goes ahead of Steve Bolger in the Ferrari. And Steve Bolger himself is on a start at a fast lap now too. On he goes to the opening sector here. He's the only one, looks like he's running a different banner on the car compared to a couple of the others there, so it might be a small little change for the Gravel Rash Racing Ferrari. Not too far off the top time there. Termo now into P5 with a personal best, so he drops Bolger down to row 3 to 6th place. Top 7 covered by a second at the moment. And then the Turra's just outside. So the Turra's really not a representative lap time from what we've seen from them in the past at the moment. Greg on an out lap, Noah on a fast lap at the moment, and Noah's really sort of nowhere at the minute. His first sector was a bit rubbish, and he's now got to gather himself up pretty quickly. Steve Bolger not too far away here, Bagsy, only 17 hundredths of a second away from the top time. And Rhodey, oh, don't tell me there's going to be a... is Rhodey on a fast lap here? Actually, he is. So, again,
the same thing Rosella had to deal with as well, and that looks like that's Bulger's lap done right
yeah,
there.
that's been thrown away, and Steve's going to have to probably just needed to do the thing there and back off. If he goes back to the pits, he's going to. Oh, he got to cut the final corner as well. So I think what he's maybe done now, he'll back off. Maybe he'll try and slipstream Rhodey down the back straight here. Maybe if he's going to try and look at getting a good time. Actually, Rhodey's gotten out of the way, so stay with Steve and see if he actually sets a half decent time through the first sector out of all of that.
Eamon Woods is looking to break Bulger's heart and any thought he had of maybe getting close to the front by setting another purple first sector.
Yeah.
And I've got the feeling he's about to set another purple second sector as well.
Yeah, here he comes now. Damon Woods up through the Imola chicane down to there, and he is up.
Yep.
It's a purple sector, so 40.9 in the middle, 27.212 in the first, and this will dip him pretty close to the 35s. Be a high 35 if he keeps it going. Beautiful apex through the final couple of corners. Just a little bit of sausage curb on the inside, stays well clear of the catch fence, and 35.9. So that should be qualifying session and pole. Purple, all done and dusted. And that should be pole for him comfortably. Rosella.
Greg Tara's set a personal best, but has not moved up from his position. Xavier Kokai's in the pit, so he won't change. Rosella ran wide in the second sector going into the hairpin, and this lap won't be very good, but he will get one more chance as he crosses the line. Damon Woods has gone purple again in the first sector.
Wow. Bulger's going to get another lap as well, so he's across the line, and we're watching Rosella, so he will get one more as well. Will drive a 55, and it was a garbage throwaway lap anyway because it was a track cut for Luke Rosella, so off he goes. Woods purple in the first sector by another 10th, so still finding plenty of time.
I think that currently 12th place man Ben Hall, who's about to cross the line now, doesn't improve. He's going to be the last person to make a lap.
Correct. So here we are, start-finish line, and who's coming around?
Given up.
Who's coming around the final corner? So here comes a GTR.
Latino and Termo.
Here they come now. So to the line and flying through the curbs. So Latino currently in 13th. Termo currently in 7th. Termo goes to 4th. Latino stays 13th. Good improvement from Termo. Here comes Luke Emerton, and he's down the order. And
Woods is looking to do 3 purples again. He has.
Yep, and he has. There he goes. So 35.6. So quickest lap of the weekend so far. There goes Greg Tara into third. So good move from Tara up to P3. That's important.
What can Lewis Wedding do though? He's finally got in a good lap in his previous one. Can he go better?
7th is where he stays. So that's him
Bulger
done.
In 8th place is the next one though. So Wedding is definitely not secure in his 7th.
Here comes Bulger right now. Round the final corner. Just coming into shot now. Then you've got Rhodey, and then Rosella is the next man that we need to look for. So Steve Bulger to the line, currently P8, stays P8. That's a poor effort from Bulger there. Rosella flies through the final corner. He's the last man that can set a lap, potentially upset anything. He improves. He is only a 10th and a half away at the end of the day on Damon Woods.
That is a good lap.
Very, very good late minute lap for Luke Rosella. And didn't manage to snatch a Actually, he had the best last sector out of them all. So, 27.4 in the last sector, and a couple
he denies Damon Woods all the purple sectors.
He does.
How very rude.
He does. So Woods gets the pole yet again. So bit of a different looking front row this time. It's Woods, Rosella, and Tara. Last time it was Woods, Tara, and Steve Bulger. So again,
now we've sort of. I was talking up Steve Bulger in the fact that he can probably take a victory a bit easier this time with the knowledge he's gained in terms of how much the others around him have to fuel save, but he's really got it all to do now.
He's got a
back
lot
from
of work.
8th place. Conversely, though, Luke Rosella showing the pace that we were sort of surprised by in the race because he hadn't shown it in qualifying, and with a real chance at taking this race, if he's able to maintain the pace, and we know that Porsche does not use as much fuel as the cars around him, he could really pressure Damon Woods and either cause him to just give up the position initially and hope to be able to come back later, or actually force him to pit stop.
Absolutely. So a lot of work for Steve Bolger in this one out of 8th. And he increased his margin, we said, over Greg Tara by a couple of points in that one. So 7 points the margin at top of the standings as it stands from our math right now. And Greg Tara would be looking to hang on to P3 if he's just rubbing his hands together going, you know what, Steve, a little bit further down the order, maybe I might claw back a couple of points in this one. But let's have a look. Got our flyaway here thanks to Google Earth Studio. How's the season panned out so far? We're 6 rounds in, we're up to round 7. Luke Rosella, he kick-started the season with a pair of wins at the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit for the sprint races. Then we were off to Continental Europe. Greg Tara getting his first ever ASR victory at the first ever run at the Circuit de Estoril in southern Portugal. Then we were across the pond to Laguna Seca, sprint round format yet again. Races split this time. Termo getting race 1, Greg Tara with race 2. So the season was quite nicely poised at that point in time. Then we came down to South America and Interlagos with Damon Woods winning the 90-minute race by over a minute. And that's where the championship started to sort of turn around a little bit for a few of the chasing pack. Then we're back to Continental Europe. Damon Woods with his second consecutive win from 2 starts, 70 minutes of Nürburgring. And after the Nürburgring, we were off to Imola in northern Italy. Greg Tara with his 3rd victory of the season and a very important one for his championship at the Bologna circuit. Then here we are tonight with 1 win for Damon Woods already at the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours, who gets the 2nd win tonight. We're about 3.5 minutes away from starting proceedings to find out who gets that win, and in about 40 minutes from now, we'll have ourselves another race winner, Bagsy.
Indeed, we will. And the speaking of race winners, Damon Woods has been requested by one of the other drivers, Brian Walsh, to slow down a bit, please, so we can do one less lap and not have a splash and dash at the end. Yes, it's going to be very interesting. Luke Rosella's in the box seat here. If he can keep it all together, he has a very, very good chance of winning this race.
He does, and on top of that, you look at what happened at the beginning of the last races, watching a few of the cars circulate at the moment. Luke Rosella was boxed in for a little bit between Tim Redmond and Termo, and there was that 3 wide sort of pass coming down to this part of the circuit on that tour as well. So being caught up in a very, very angry middle pack for Luke Rosella, I think, is probably what ultimately started to cost him a potential, good result in that one. Definitely a quick pedal up, so he's got it in him to win the race. He's just got to stay out of trouble. Hopefully the racing at the beginning this time will be a little bit cleaner and everybody can get through, and we can press on here, because I would like to see some of those drivers that had to have recovery drives. So Tim Redmond, Luke Rosella, I do want to see where they end up out of all of this, if they can have a clean run and not, spill the beans, or, in Tim Redmond's case, get stung by hitting the sausage curbs too hard and end up off in the boonies, as Lewis Wedding would call it. If they have a nice clean race, they don't have to worry about fighting and stuff like that, but also they can play a nice clever strategy card as well. I'd like to see who out of the drivers that stopped toward the end of last race, or if they stopped early like Noah Tara, whether or not they've learnt their lesson from their tour through the pit lane.
Only time will tell, and time indicates that there's about a minute and a half before we go to the track for race number 2 tonight. Yeah, you're totally correct in terms of the Tim Redmonds, the Luke Rosellas, all of those. They will be the ones to watch in this race, and who knows what's gonna happen.
Who knows indeed. That's the $64,000 question, as they call it. Who knows what is about to happen in the next 30 minutes and change. Well, it's probably going to be a little bit more than 30 minutes. It'll be about 35, I think, when you look at how much time that last race took. Actually, might go over to to the live races and have a little bit of a quick look for all those that forget what the address is all the time. It is asrleague.liveraces.com. That's the timing that we get. We follow through with everything. We get to see the qualifying results. We get to see the positions of the cars on the track as they happen. And that last race was 33 minutes and 5 seconds for the race winner, Damon Woods. So just a little bit over that 30-minute duration. Not too bad.
Is that including the initial outlet?
No, that includes the timer. So that means somewhere on the 19th lap, the timer expired, and we ended up getting 20 laps.
Ah, of course, yeah.
So there we go. So that's how that all works. There is a little bit of a difference with some of the race replays and how they work, because they are on a timer. The way the system works, there's a few interesting things we've had to do with some of the stewards' reviews over the course of the last few seasons with in-game replay timers and how they all sort of will work. Trying to marry up different things along the lines of who hit who and who said what when that all happened. But no, the live racer stuff is pretty accurate with the times. It's basically from the minute the green flag drops and the timer starts counting. That's the time that's actually on the live races information. Rightio. Race 2 time. Let's head them up and roll them out, as the old ad used to say. We are ripping through this calendar in a great haste, Bagsy, and to think we've still got another 3 tracks after this night's level of racing is out. Just to confirm the calendar, as you saw a bit earlier during the commercial break that we had while we wait for the cars to grid up. The next 3 races coming up: 18th of September, Paul Ricard; 30th of October at Monza; and the 20th of November is where it all finishes in Bahrain. So a race a month for the next 3 months. It's spread out quite nicely throughout the year.
It is still quite a way away, and lots of time for these guys, and lots of other race series for them to forget about how they race their GT3 cars.
Certainly is. All right, looks like we've got some activity here for race 2 this evening. Run through this grid really quick. So your race 1 winner is on the pole yet again. Damon Woods, a pair of poles. Can he make it a pair of race wins? Not if Luke Brazella's got anything to say about it. He is on the front row of the grid and might give the Mercedes a run for its money. Greg Tara, 3rd place in the championship, and second place in the championship, and 3rd place on the grid, but he is starting quite substantially ahead of his championship rival Steve Bolger for this one. Xavier Kokai, his best qualifying effort of the season so far, much better than the back end of the top 10 position he held in race number 1 this evening. Termo is a spot or 2 further back in P5. Redmond's about where he started. He was P5 for the first race. He's on the opposite side of that row in P6 for this one. Lewis Wedding out of 7th. He was right down the back, if you remember correctly, for race 1. And he's got Steve Bolger alongside him, so Steve's going to have a bit of work to do, as looks like Kokai's just overshot the hairpin there. Noah Tara, he's going to have to do a little bit of work from P9. And Lockie Burke, that's qualifying for Lockie Burke, top 10, the first of the Bentleys. Second of the Bentleys is Steve Warwick for Black Shores. Ben Hall in the GTR in 12th. RSM Latino, the second of the same livery GTRs. Luke Emerton's a little bit further back this time. Rhodey in 15th. Ryan Walsh for Playboy, Wildcat and Artmore in 16th. And you got Glenn Miles in 17th. Taipan off the back row along with Nathan Higginson. And that is your 19. Now, Glenn Miles is, here we go, he's a bit further. Now, Walshy has got to try and move his way through the field here. He's down toward the back here. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a stop-go penalty if he's out of position here. There's cars trying to sort themselves out, and I think we might actually be having another one of these little restarts to sort this out. So it's a bit.
At least this time it happened before the race start.
Yeah, so it's happened on the formation lap, and I'm just looking to see here whether or not there's anything going in the in the chat here. Doesn't look like anything was relayed to the admin, but it looks like someone's picked up that something has gone wrong. Be keen to get some feedback on that one actually tonight and see what happened there. I know that Rhodey's a supporter of Team Termo, just as something I've just noticed here in the live chat, in the Discord chat. It's now gone from Team Termo to Team Bebtaloy. I don't know what that's all about. But
I believe it's referencing in the in-game chat. Someone put in
misspelt the word Bentley
quite severely.
Okay, there we go. That'll be the reason for that one. Actually, you know what? We'll actually have a look at that one. We might actually... oh, yeah, Lockie Burke. There we go. That's what it is. Yeah, 3 Beb toys side by side solved. Okay, so there's only 2 Bentleys, but there's 3 Beb toys. Okay, there we go. So Lockie Burke's going to have a little bit of something to answer for there. Needs to go back to English class and learn how to spell. All right. Hopefully, we are going to get a proper start this time. So apologies to the viewers. We've been looking forward to some of these races, and twice tonight there's been a few issues with cars being out of position, not so much on the grid but on the formation lap, and having to reset procedures and reset things here. It's actually good to see that most of the drivers are actually in the main chat at the moment, so I imagine it's been verbally communicated that there's been a problem, and Bruce Willis stepped in and solved that for us. So off we go yet again. Let's hopefully think they'll stay in order this time. So Damon Woods and Luke Rosella, the front row. Row 2, Greg Tara for G&W and Kokai for Evolution Racing Team. Termo and Tim Redmond occupy row 3. Lewis Wedding and Steve Bolger, 7th and 8th. Noah Tara in 9th and Lockie Burke in 10th. Rows are starting to break apart just a little bit here. Then you got Steve Warwick and Ben Hall on row 6. RSM Latino is good mates with Steve Warwick, and good to see him teaming up with him for the upcoming Supercars Enduro Cup. Thanks to Henrike Better Class of Oil and Ryco Filters. Luke Emmett alongside Latino in 14th, and you got Rhodey and Brian Walsh sharing the 8th row of the grid. That's where Walshy should have been instead of being off the back. You got Glenn Miles in 17th, Taipan in 18th, and Higginson at the back. And I'm not sure if Higginson set a lap and has been asked to go to rear of grid, or actually if he set a lap in qualifying at all. That's a bit of a curious one.
He definitely went out because he was involved in that gaggle at the start, but I never actually saw if he managed to complete one.
I don't think I saw him complete one either, but my memory doesn't serve me well just for that one. I was focusing obviously on a lot of other battles. This is the view that Higginson's got, looking out of his BMW M6. All the cars just lingering ahead of him as they go around the circuit. I'm sort of looking at wondering, Jesus, how am I going to pass all of these?
Yeah, it's going to be quite the effort. We'll see if he's up to it.
Here we go. Already a bit of fun and games here, Bagsy. Sorry to cut you off. There's already a bit of fun and games there. They were just bunching up a little bit coming out of 180R and heading up to the second chicane in Imola, and now they're sort of caught back up the safety car again. There was definitely a bit of nose to tail action as they all came out of that corner. Now they're going to bunch up again here as the safety car accelerates away. And let's get it on again for another 30 minutes and another 20 laps. Field looks good. Everybody looks like they're in position for this one. A couple of cars running a little bit wide as they have to try and find a way to get side by side.
Safety car is in.
The go line.
How will Rosella react?
The go line is the start-finish gantry. So Rosella just hanging back a touch, and away we go. 30 minutes on the clock. Let's do it all again. Damon Woods, very, very easy hold shot through into turn 1 and 2. And now scything his way through turn number 3 and on their way up to the Adelaide hairpin. Looks good for the top half a dozen cars or so so far. Nice and
Everyone
clean.
made it through the first 2 corners cleanly.
Higginson's made a couple of spots off the back, and there's already a little bit of action a bit further back here. We got the Bentley of
3 wide at the back. Lockie Burke.
Yep, Burke, Latino, and Steve Warwick. Sorry, Hall and Warwick on the outside.
Well, Rosella's taken the lead into the Adelaide hairpin.
He certainly has. He's got the job done, and he's just going to hold it here. So we missed that pass. That came from a long way back under brakes, obviously. So he presses on here, and Greg Tara going with him. So the top half a dozen, actually top 8, 9, yeah, top 9 have stayed in position apart from the front 2, which was Rosella getting ahead of Woods now. So it's all settled down for the time being. Now, with Rosella out in front, what's the strategy here, Bagsy? Does he control the race? Does he sprint? What does he do?
I mean, if he feels like he can push the whole race, then he's just got to do that. That's the way to go. Damon Woods and Greg Turr are not going to be able to keep up with him. As Turmo and Kokai go side by side behind them, coming down into the final 2 corners, Kokai with the inside line will require Turmo to give up that place to him.
He does.
But yeah, for Rosella, if he has the fuel, why not just go your hardest, get a little bit of a gap, and then probably relax a little bit so you don't have a incident with the wall like you did in race 1, and just continue on knowing that behind you they're having to worry about each other's fuel and not yours.
No, correct. That's probably not a bad deploy. I think that's what we saw Damon Woods try and do in race 1, was that build a little bit of a gap and go from
racy
there.
here as well. Someone else who's probably not going to have to worry about fuel in that McLaren.
Oh, Wedding, big dive, big dive. He's gotten into the Turmo. Lucky Turmo doesn't lose a spot out of that one. He's maintained ahead of Bolger for the moment, but that's a big mistake from Lewis Wedding. Saw it on the footage. It came from a long way back, country mile back, and so lucky.
That move came from Le Mans. That he's already thinking about Le Mans because he was there when he made that move.
That was from Le Mans with love, a little bit of a wee and poo, I think it was. There'll be some of that in Turmo's pants after that.
Rosella's had a big moment.
He has. He's gone across the grass after the Imola chicane. Doesn't give up the lead, but that's a wake-up call. If he was trying to push, that is certainly a wake-up call that he can't be doing that too often. That's put Woods right on his tail. He had an 0.8 of a second margin as they crossed the line to end lap 1. That margin's now been close to halved for a very brief period.
Bolger and Turmo have both gone wide at the
Turmo's in the pits.
Turmo's in
the pits here, so I'm not sure what this is about, whether or not this is a fuel ploy or if he's not happy with something.
It's got to be.
It's not fuel only for Turmo.
I mean, I guess he potentially could be, because it seems like it's, oh no, yeah, definitely just fuel.
Yep, on the move as well, and he's going to rejoin
Redmond
about
got past
16th.
Bolger as well when they went wide in that final corner there. So Redmond up to 5th, someone who we don't think is going to have to worry about fuel either. 3 cars ahead of him definitely will. Kokai is looking very racy though, and he's definitely going to have to pit if he pushes this hard. And he's right on the back. He's sort of forcing the hand of Tara and Woods because they don't want to just give up these positions here, because that's going to be very detrimental to their races, even if they have to save fuel. We heard Damon potentially unwisely give away that he only had 19 seconds of fuel left, and that's really shaped other people's race strategies, and we're seeing it play out already with Kokai pushing, Kokai, his teammate, pushing him immediately, as well as Rosella just flying away with it.
Yeah,
and we can't count Wedding out.
No, Wedding's gone. Actually, Wedding's out of this race.
No, he's totally out of the race. We can count Wedding out.
Yeah, no, Wedding is out of this race, and I'm actually just looking as well just to see if, what happened here, because Steve Warwick and Lewis Wedding both came into the pits and retired. So Wedding actually had a he had a bit of an incident at the final corner, and he's out. And then Steve Warwick just came in and just went straight to his pit box, and that was over and out. So I think Lewis is probably a little bit upset with causing the incident that he did. So we get a new fastest lap for Rosella at 37.4. So he's now got that 0.8 of a second margin yet again out in front that he had a little bit earlier.
Ben Hall up in 8th place at the moment.
Yeah, he's doing quite well. He's just kept his head a little bit here, with Wedding obviously falling out of that top 10 battle, and He's picked off RSM Latino quite handsomely. Steve Bolger has gained a spot in all of that as well. He's now up to 7th. And then there's this little battle pack that's starting to emerge as well. So you've got Taipan, Rhodey, and Lockie Burke having a little battle. That's actually pretty good for Rhodey being up in 12th place and fighting on with definitely some faster cars compared to what he's used to be driving with. Oh, look at this. Swaps on, Snakey's on, defensive line, attacking line. What line do you want, boys? There's a turn coming up. Pick your line. And they all get through the Adelaide hairpin. Rhodey makes a spot though.
Oh yeah, Rhodey's got a much better drive off the corner there.
And then behind them you've got Turmo and Higginson. Now it's interesting to note that Higginson started down toward the back. He actually started plumb last. He's now up to 15th. He was up to 16th on lap 1. Now Turmo's now gone ahead of him, having pitted. So I don't know what has happened to Higginson after all of that. But there's Turmo and Higginson behind him. I'll have a look at the live timing to see if we've got anything for Nathan Higginson. No, he looks like he might be driving to a slightly lesser fuel number, or he's had a couple of slow seconds. So
Noah Tara pits.
There we go. So it's all happening yet again. Noah Tara decides he wants a drink of juice. Here he comes.
Now, the interesting thing. So if we go for, we're going to ignore Luke Rosella in terms of the fuel for now, but Damon Woods is ahead of Turmo by 23.5 seconds. It was 24 seconds at the start of this lap, so it's already come down slightly. Turmo is going to be going out flat chat. Damon Woods is going to be driving to a fuel number, we assume, because he set a 137 as his best lap, 137.5, and then set another 137.5 last lap. So that is already a second faster than the lap he was running to in race 1, and we know he only just made it at the end there.
Yeah. I'm worried about Noah Tara here. Sorry, Bagsy. He was stationary for an eternity in the pit lane. I'm wondering whether he's overfueling the car. There's no tyres went on that car, so there maybe it might have been some damage repair they forgot to turn off in there as well, but he was stationary for a long time. He's come out 16th and he's 20 plus seconds behind Glenn Miles right now. That's ruined his race. Yeah. That has ruined his race. Now here's another interesting one. Oh, a little bit of contact there between Turmo and Rhodey as Turmo's fallen off the back of proceedings here. Rhodey having a really good run actually. Yellow flag out.
Yeah, yellow flag. Oh, there's I think it's Glenn Miles. Or actually no, it's
yeah, no, it's Brian Walsh. There he is
Brian
off the
Walsh,
circuit. So he's on the inside the circuit there, so he's had a spin and there's no passing at the Chateau d'Eau for a little bit. Looks like he's got going again now. No, I'm surprised. Rhodey actually doing quite well here, hanging on to his own. Turmo's going to look to send this to the inside. No, that's a little bit late. No room at the end there, sir. Lockie Burke's now got a run on Turmo. He can't do anything with it. Again, another very brief yellow flag moment. So there's a few drivers just exploring the outer limits of this circuit and the dirt and the dust. Oop, there's a little bit of a nudge there as Rhodey was going wide. You probably might not be a fan of that one. Turmo with looking to move down the inside, just judging it a little bit of a bump there. And off we go again. Now, top three, importantly, have got some air between the two, all of them. So Rosella 1.8 seconds in front of Woods, who in turn's got about 2 and a little bit on Tara. And then we've got this battle here for 4th, 5th and 6th. So Redmond's gone to 4th, Bolger's gone to 5th, and Kokai, who started 4th, has been demoted back to 6th. So a few drivers realising that they had fuel to play with. So Redmond probably being one of them. Bolger definitely being one of them. I think he's fuel saving over and done with and have a few litres left in the tank. They might try and press on a little bit here.
Yeah, 136.8 for Luke Rosella. And I believe he's about to come across the line now and set another time, 137 flat. But these guys are almost 10 seconds off the lead now, and they'll be struggling to compete for the race win here if things keep going this way. But they can definitely still compete for the podium if Damon Woods and Greg Tara have the fuel issues that they had at the end last race.
Well, this is the thing with Luke Rosella going out quite hard with the Porsche. It's sort of he's trying to suck Woods and Tara into trying to match his pace. At the the moment they're not playing the game. So from Rosella's point of view, here he is out in front on his way down to the Nürburgring chicane. You just see Woods just starting to disappear a little bit further into the background. Actually, the gap went up by a country mile that last lap, went up by 0.5 of a second. It's now out to 3.5 seconds. So last 2 laps have been really good for Luke Rosella. And Greg Tara 38.8 the last lap around as well. So it's a poor lap for Tara. And Damon Woods' first sector was very poor this one as well. He was 1.4 seconds slower than Luke Rosella through the first sector alone. So I think
a bit of a mistake there.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a mistake there for the driver at car 56. And Greg actually has made some ground because of that mistake. So that margin now down to 2.3 seconds. It was closer to 3 a lap or 2 ago. And then there's that other battle right back there. There's Bolger chasing Tim Redmond. And they've started to actually kick away from Kokai now. They've got nearly 2 seconds on the second of the Evolution Racing Team Mercedes-Benzes. What are the lap times for the top 3 this time? So Rosella goes through in a 37.2, Woods goes through in a 39.2, and Tara goes through in a 38 flat. So there you go. 2.1 seconds now from Tara to Woods. And I think with Steve Bolger now lying in 5th place, Greg Tara knows he's got an opportunity here to get a few extra points, while Tim Redmond has got his hands full with the Ferrari.
Yeah, Tim Redmond is currently Greg Tara's best friend, because this is helping Tara hit his number and hitting it fairly easily when Redmond is battling with Bolger. So this could be, it might be, I mean, it's hard, it might be worth Redmond letting Bolger go, having Bolger push up to Tara, force him to use more fuel, and then Redmond himself can take advantage of that later on in the race. But it's one of those, it's a very big what-if scenario, that one.
Definitely is a big what-if scenario. Now, the other scenario you mentioned a few moments ago concerned this man, Termo. So he has been into the pits and had a splash and dash and got going again. You mentioned he was about 24 to 25 seconds off of, I think it was Damon Woods you called it, and he's currently tracking at 31 off the race leader, so it's not that far.
Still 25 seconds
off
Woods.
Better part of 25 seconds off Woods, but he has actually made his way through on a lot of other cars, surprisingly, after that stop. He dropped all the way down to about 15th. He's now back on the up to 8th on the road overall. So not insurmountable. He could probably grab another spot or 2 if he keeps tracking along like this. Ben Hall's 11 seconds up the road, 7th place, actually doing quite a nice job at the moment in the GTR. So lap time for him is actually pretty reasonable. 1 minute 38.7 with the best lap, and 39.6 for him that time around. We go back to Termo. What's the lap times that he's doing? 37.726, and that's his best lap of the race. So he's obviously got the bit between the teeth, can push. So by the end of this race, he might very well have passed Ben Hall at the current times that we're looking at if they sort of maintain this sort of pace toward the end.
I think Damon Woods may have had another problem down at the Adelaide hairpin and run a bit wide. It's going to be hard to tell. He's just gone through 180R now, so we'll be coming up to the split in approximately 10 seconds. We'll be able to see, but I think this gap to Greg Tara has dropped a bit.
Yep, visually
see
you can
what
see
happens
it.
when he goes through. It was a 41.9 for Luke Rosella, and we've got
42.
a 42. So it's actually not that bad, but
It's not that
it
terrible.
was a bit slower than
It-
what he's been doing.
It looks like it was on corner exit as well, because there was a 0.2 of a second difference in the first sector alone. Greg was a bit slower again, so the gap has come down visually for Greg Tara, but I think it might have been that way on the previous lap, not so much this one. I think it sort of stayed roughly the same, but he has got this margin down. You can see there on the screen, it is only 1.5 seconds between the men in 2nd and 3rd place. A bit further back though, this battle between Bolger and Redmond still unresolved, or at the moment resolved in terms of Redmond's favour. He's just maybe eked out an extra car length or 2 here and there. There's a few strengths and weaknesses between these two. Bolger seems to have the edge in Sector 1. Redmond seems to have the edge in Sector 2, and then they're pretty evenly matched in Sector 3. Their lap times are near identical. So last time around, Redmond 37.962, Bolger 37.957. So you virtually cannot get almost any closer than that at racing speed if you try.
Yeah, I mean, it's really... They're trying to occupy the same piece of track as well, aren't they? They're not letting each other go. I believe there's a purple sector for Bolger as well. That slipstream, very
Correct.
powerful down the straight there.
Yeah,
And,
correct. Yeah, set a purple sector there. He's at 27.4, so you can't do anything with it though because he can't pass the Macca in a straight line right.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for him as well because he really had a shot at winning this race if he'd had a better qualifying.
His qualifying's the one that's letting him down at the moment. It finds him 12.6 seconds off the pace. But what I suspect these guys are going to do is they've got some fuel in hand that they can start to wind it on in the next lap or two. Remember that Steve said he probably left his run to pass Greg a little bit too late. So he's going to pull the trigger. He's probably going to have to pull it soon.
The problem is I don't think he's... I'm sure he's saving enough fuel here behind Redmond. Honestly, especially with the slipstream and stuff. I feel like he's saved enough fuel, but he's just not going to have the opportunity because they're 4 seconds up the road. I mean, did he get to this? I can't remember if he got to this much of a gap at the end of, or towards the end of the last race. But I think the other guys are actually doing a better job of saving this time as well. Although that being said, Rosella is a long way ahead now. He's managed to get a 7-second gap, so he can. Yeah, there's 13 minutes left.
Yeah, he can coast it from here almost. He can. So he's not throwing the car around at any great rate, but he's definitely driving it sensibly at the moment. And 27.6 is still a quick sector 1 time. Definitely not the fastest sector time we've seen, which was a 27.4 from Steve Bolger on the previous lap. But he doesn't need to push at this rate. He's got plenty of margin. He can just afford to just knock a 10th or 2 off per lap. And he'll be doing quite well. Here we go. Greg Tara Greg Tara has now caught onto the back of Damon Woods. So this is the strategy playing out again. Woods driving to the number. Greg Tara probably has been driving to a number for a little bit and has just wound it up a little bit in the last few laps. Slowly. He's now caught up to car 56, and is he going to then play the strategy of I want to be in front and then I want to save a little bit of fuel and make sure I can get to the end?
Yeah, honestly, I think he's sitting in the slipstream.
Oh!
His ball just hit the wall.
Has he hit the wall? Because
it.
Yeah, that I saw him in the back of shot. He was very, very sideways off the final corner, maybe trying to get a run on Tim Redmond. Let's have a look at this one on the Endurance Chat replay, because that was a wild moment for Steve Bolger. Right under the rear wing of the Opticoat McLaren. Here he comes. So he's into the final corner. I think he was trying to just surf it through these curbs, and here we go, gassed it up. Oh, no, he stayed out of the wall, but...
I retract my he's hit the wall, but yes, he has definitely stained his pants.
He has, had a bit of a brown pants moment there for Steve Bolger, but he didn't lose a lot of time. That's the important piece. He did not lose a lot of time to Tim Redmond in all of that. He only lost probably about a half a second, and he's going to be right back on McLaren's rear wing almost immediately. So the battle for positions 4 and 5 resumes. All right, so again, pit stop call is coming in. So Lockie Burke out of what was position 14.
Bolger's on a run here.
And Bolger is on a run, so we're going to stay with Steve Bolger as they head up through Imola Chicane up to the Chateau d'Eau. Now, where's he pull the trigger? He obviously tried to pull it out of the final corner and maybe get a run down the front straight, maybe to try and set himself up for the hairpin. That was an easy pass the other day. Tim Redmond's just let him have it, I think. Yes, he has. So Redmond decides, you know what? Your turn to run at the front. If you think you can take us up to the back of Greg Tara and Damon Woods, why not? I'll follow you.
Yeah, I mean, it's 10 minutes to go. You've got to make a decision at some point, and he has made that decision. Greg Tara's dropped off the back of Damon Woods a bit as well.
It has.
Something I just wanted to bring attention to. Ben Hall still currently sitting in 7th. We do know that GTR, we know he pit last race, and we know that GTR does have some fuel issues, but he has been hitting 140s and stuff, so I'm wondering if he's saving enough to manage to get into the to the end of the race without having to stop. If he does stop, he is going to drop a fair way back down the field, unfortunately. But if he's able to continue with this, then this is going to be a solid top 10 result for him.
It definitely will. Either way, it'll be a solid top 10 result, but he did make a little mistake just coming into the final complex corners on the last lap, and that sort of gave him the lap time that you saw flash up on your screen for him of 1:40.3, which is one of the slower laps that he's done outside of the opening rolling start. And that gap has come down. It's now only 5 seconds, or just on 5 seconds. It's almost taken half the margin that it was when we last checked in on this little skirmish. And he's got plenty of time up his sleeve too, Turmo, most importantly. And he's been hitting those numbers. He's been hitting those 38s regularly. So it's only a matter of time, I think, before we see him go as 36.5. set by Luke Rosella on fastest lap. So plenty of life still left in those tyres. Margin now out to well over 10 seconds between the men in first and second place.
Yeah, it's been a very good drive from Rosella so far. He's got 8 minutes left to continue it on. It looks like we'll probably be heading for another 20-lap race at the pace he's going at. So he's Luke Rosella wanting to make it as difficult as possible for these front-engine cars and push how many laps that they do in this race, because that is a significant impact on their ability. If these Porsches weren't here, then I have no doubt that Damon or Greg would have tried to manage this race in such a way that they would have to do one less lap, so they don't have to be as aggressive with their fuel saving. But then it would turn into that sort of meta game against each other of, well, one's going to push harder to make it so you do have to, and then potentially stuff them both.
No,
in this case, Rosella is playing that part.
That's right. Here he comes again up to Chateau d'Eau. Now, I just had a quick look as well because I was interested to see what the gaps were. So it was 11.3 seconds currently from Rosella to Woods. Now, importantly, Damon Woods is actually on his last track limits warning as well. He actually, I saw in the last lap, he was done for a track violation in Sector 2. He's already got 3 strikes and he's still got 7 minutes and change to go. So with Greg Tara all over his hammer, he's got to be very, very, very careful in the remaining 6 laps.
Just looking at the times, doesn't look like Bulger's making too big inroads into Greg and Woods, honestly. Greg and Woods are quite close to each other, but they're not really taking time off each other. At 138.7 for Woods, 138.2 for Tara, 138.1, basically 138.2 for Bulger, 138 flat for Redmond. So, yeah, it's not making the inroads I'm sure Tim Redmond was wanting after he swapped that position. So Redmond's sort of like, you know, what am I paying you for here?
That's right.
Why'd I pay you with my position when I'm not gaining anything from it?
And importantly as well, you can see there's traffic starting to factor in. There's Redmond and Bulger in the back of shot. So you've got Lockie Burke and Rhodey ahead of Woods and Tara here. So this might start to help Steve Bulger close this margin down a little bit more. Just depends on where they catch the traffic. So it's going to be a bit of a difficult prospect here for them to pass. You would hope that they'd like to get this pass done on Rhodey before they get to the Imola chicane. Otherwise, the next opportunity is going to be down into Chateau d'Eau. And Rhodey's actually travelling along at a fairly reasonable clip at the moment as well. So I think he might just be waiting till they get past the Chateau d'Eau here to allow them through, because he's in pursuit of Lockie Burke, and that's for position. They are about to go a lap down here. Rhodey will hopefully stay to the right.
They're on separate strategies as well. Lockie Burke's pit, I don't believe Rhodey has.
Yeah, correct. So Burke has been in and Rhodey has not.
Rhodey's gone quite wide there, and it's just slowing up Woods and Tara even more.
Here we go. So off the main straight. So that's actually, I'm not sure if that's hampered them or not. So Woods didn't register a lap time there, but it looks like he was maybe okay with that one. And they go through. So Tara with a 38.8, and then Bulger behind 38.1, Redmond 38.4. So they did make a gain, Redmond and Bulger.
Made a large gain.
Quite a significant gain. They are
also Rosella a second. He took a second off of him that lap.
Yeah, Rosella was down to 37.7.
He's looking quite untouchable at the moment. Something to note is that these guys have got to be very nervous every time they're coming up to a back marker in that final sector because, you know, these guys are at the front because they are driving better. They're a bit better drivers, and the guys who aren't quite as good drivers are more likely to make a mistake in that corner. If they're right in front of you, they hit that wall. We saw sheer luck in the Higgins and Kokai incident in the first race that Kokai didn't hit him. So it could happen if you're going up to lap someone. You got to be careful because if they hit that wall, you are not in a happy place.
No, definitely not. And look, these guys are lucky now. They don't have any lap traffic for a little while. The next one that Luke Rosella is going to come across is RSM Latino, and he's actually probably about a sector ahead at the moment. So where Rosella's crossing the start-finish line, Latino's actually halfway up the back straight on his way to Adelaide, the hairpin. So there's still a fair bit of time to go, and I don't think Rosella's going to, you know, probably catch him at this stage unless Latino goes into fuel-saving mode. So the men in second and third place, Woods and Tara, probably are going to have a little bit of respite from not having to worry so much about lap traffic, but they're not going to have any respite from Steve Bolger behind because they've had to pick their game up. Woods 38.1, Tara 38.0, and then behind them Bolger 38.0 as well.
And Hall's pit.
And he has. So Hall could not make the fuel last. So that's a gift for Termo. In comes the GTR. He's actually taking tyres as well. So I'm not sure if that's a good strategy at all. Because the next man coming along is Taipan.
Yeah, Taipan's going to pass him. Noah Tara is definitely going to pass him. Doesn't have to pit.
Taipan in
He's probably going to stay ahead of Lockie Burke, though, who was the other person he was battling with initially when Lockie Burke came in. So
there he goes.
It's actually going to go quite well for Hall.
Yep. So Taipan through. Oh, he's a bit wide at the first corner as well. That's going to... Oh, and he nearly rolled the car as well. He's had a bit of a whack of the wall, so he might actually concede position here because here comes... Well, Higginson is going to go up to P10. That means, obviously, Noah Tara goes through to 9th. I think Noah might get 8th here. Where's Taipan? Recovering.
Taipan's recovering to the track now. Hopefully he's keeping an eye out.
Oi! That was mighty close as well.
He's kept a car's width and a credit card's eye out. But this is suddenly now Noah Tara, Taipan, Higginson, Everton all potentially battle here. Bolger and Co. And Bolger and Redmond, sorry, are going ahead of Rhodey right now. Redmond got a lot worse of that than Bolger did, but Bolger, he's still 5 seconds behind Tara. They're not making the inroads. He might have left his run too late again. We've got 1:40 seconds left, and Rosella is at the Adelaide hairpin coming up on lap traffic, so there will be 20 laps yet again. Have people done the fuel calculation? I've got the feeling that Woods and Tara have been pushing harder than they did last race, but
yeah, the lap times...
I could be wrong. They might have just been more efficient.
The lap times certainly seem to show that as well, because they've been doing sort of 38s and they've had to pick their pace up late as well to make sure they don't get overtaken by Steve Bolger, just to insulate themselves from the attack, because we know Bolger's coming like a train at the moment. Here comes Rosella, so he is actually going to lap RSM Latino now. I'm not sure if Latino's gone into fuel saving mode, because his last lap was a 39.7, which is still pretty respectable. And then you look a bit further down, you can just see Emerton, who's the next man ahead of Latino, flying through the last chicane. So Latino's actually in the top 10, so or was in the top 10. There was a little bit of timing glitch there, so that's a good result. Emerton is the last man in the 10. Latino gets out the way and lets the faster portion through. 37.9 last time for Luke Rosella. Here he goes, and through he goes. Woods has now got a little bit of margin on Greg Tara, so he's found a little bit of pace. There's the chasing guys in the back. Personal best last lap for Damon Woods, 37.2. Greg Tara, 37.9. Bolger, 38.3. So again, you're right. The run's not happening for Steve Bolger this time around. So I think the top three might be settled.
And I'm not one to be I'm not throwing out accusations here, but I'm wondering if Damon Woods maybe told us a little bit of a fib about how much fuel he had left at the end, just to try and throw other people off potentially.
Maybe.
Because unless he's just optimized his driving style, the clock's at 0, unless he's just optimized his driving style for this second run, which he definitely could have done. It just sort of feels like he's not quite maybe he doth protested too much about his fuel.
I think so. Well, here we go into the Chateau d'Eau for penultimate time. One more lap to go. Drive-through penalty for Lachlan Burke, so that's for the track violations. And where's he done that? So he is currently down in 15th place. He would have done that through the chicane at the Nürburgring chicane. That's where he's just been through. So Rosella, one more to go. No more mistakes with the wall this time around. And he's got another penalty, Lockie Burke. That's down at the Imola chicane, so he's done it twice now. And they're actually compounding penalties as well, which means he's actually got 2 drive-throughs to serve there. He'll have to make a little bit of a tour. So Rosella continues on up the back straight. Flawless drive, you have to say here, Bagsy. Snatched the lead away.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's done everything he needed to do, and he kept it. The biggest thing is he kept out. He could have got in his own head about that wall there. I'm sure every time he came into the last complex, he was thinking about it, and especially once he realised he had such a big lead, he could just really take it easy. It doesn't matter if he loses time. He can just go about it and go about his business. And he's done a very good job. This will be Luke Rosella's maiden GT3 win, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he got the opening 2 races at Albert Park. So
of course, I totally forgot about
correct.
that.
So this will be race win number 3 of the season for him. Sprint racing he seems to like, actually. So
yeah, he's definitely got the knack for it. It seems like he just needs a pit crew, a chief strategist to help him in the longer form races, and he will be a competitor in those as well. It is quite the skill to be able to race as well as work on your strategy at the same time, and there's definitely a reason that they don't leave it to the drivers in most racing series.
No, you're right there. So down to final complex of corners. So there's been 6 sprint races across the 3 rounds this year, and Rosella has got 3 of them. So well done, Luke Rosella. Another win in ASR competition. He's starting to rack them up now. Here's second place man Damon Woods, not top step of the podium this time around. Second place for him. He finished comfortably ahead of Greg Turra in the end. So another podium for Greg, and Steve Bolger 4th. So important thing there is they actually tie on points for the round, Bolger and Greg Turra. So they're back to where they started at the beginning of the night, with a 5-point gap between them at the end of it all. Tim Redmond home for 5th. Kokai started 4th, so he faded to 6th after that one.
Kokai managed to make that whole race though in the Mercedes without pitting. So Termo's ended up a good 6 or 10 seconds behind him.
He has.
After pitting, so that's a very well balanced race there from Kokai, because they were together when Termo did his initial pit stop.
That's right, he were too. And he didn't make it last in race number 1 as well, so he ended up with a bit of, and I think that's probably a much more solid race from Xavier Kokai compared to the issues he had in race number 1. Now, Dawatara's gone through to for 8th here, and here he is. So there was just a little timing glitch that I was just looking at. It said Taipan was 8th, but I think that's because there was this timing glitch. So Tara's going to get 8th. Of the Noah variety. Taipan will come home for 9th. So that's another good top 10 result for Taipan and the Lamborghini. As RS7 Latino looks like he's out with fuel again. And that means Higginson's actually managed to snatch the last spot inside the top 10 away from Luke Emerton. So we didn't capture that on the broadcast, but Emerton was in the top 10 for most of the last bit of that race, and looks like he might have lost that in the last few minutes. So Higginson in the 10, 11th for Emerton, and yeah, RSM Latino out. Sorry, excuse me. RSM Latino, 12th place finish for him. With Ben Hall after his stop. Rhodey is pushing Redmond to the home here, so that means Redmond was out of fuel. In 14th, then he had Lockie Burke with his couple of penalties, 15th, and then Glenn Miles and Brian Walsh for the last 2 finishes, with Steve Warwick and Lewis Wedding out after just 1 lap. So they're officially the non-finishers for this one. But oh well, a second race that had a little bit of more of an interesting context compared to the first one.
Yeah, it's definitely was. Certainly felt like that race was much more in Rosella's control than Greg Tara or Damon Woods had control in the first one. It felt like the first one's much more fly by seat of your pants, and the second one was a very clinical Rosella drive.
Yeah, I think that's probably the word I would use with that one as well. It was a clinical display from Luke Rosella. We'll get a chance to chat to him in just a few seconds. But it's an interesting sort of point in the championship now, Bagsy. We've got only 3 more rounds to go, but we've importantly got one of each type of format to go. So there's 4 races across the 3 rounds left in the season. So how these drivers go after this one, I'm not quite sure, but we're going to get their thoughts on their second race tonight. Let's actually start with the race winner, Luke Rosella. So, Luke, the third of your wins this year, so they've all come in the sprint format. You got the first 2 at Albert Park to open proceedings. It was a bit of a mixed night for you tonight, but a very clinical drive, as Bagsy put it, in that second race.
Yeah, thanks, Nether. It took a bit of a while to get the grips. Well, I know the circuit, but when I first rolled the car out, it was absolutely terrible. Still was a bit terrible, to be honest, through the chicanes. Probably the worst car I've ever driven to handle curbs. It was pretty bad, but made some speed, some gains elsewhere, and race 1 was one to forget, really. Got taken out lap 1 and had a game freeze, and then my error at the last chicane hit the wall, so that was game over. And race 2, I don't know what to say, really. It was just we could pretty much push the whole way without fuel saving to make it with no stops, and just hit my marks, managed the gap really, and it was pretty easy win, to be honest.
It was, and also very important, I guess, to bounce back after hitting the wall. Not once tonight, but you did it twice. You did it in qualifying as well, which ruined probably a good lap for you in that first qualifying session. But important to bounce back and finish strongly. And as you see, you took the control of the race pretty early. And we were sort of wondering after the fuel dramas that a number of the drivers spoke about in race 1 tonight, whether or not going out hard and early was the right strategy, but it didn't seem to be too worrying for the Porsche.
No, so we saw this at Albert Park round 1. It's just beautiful on fuel, really, and tyres as well. So you can keep up a pretty good pace, throughout the whole race. It's just the endurance rounds really that we on the back foot, because when the the front engine cars, when they're where they're pushing full beans, they're pretty much unstoppable. So we have a pretty big advantage in these formats, but as you said, it was really important to bounce back. I was pretty filthy myself. Didn't really say much I was in the Discord with the guys, didn't really say much to them in race 2. I was just concentrated on bouncing back and getting a good result, and we got it. So I'm really happy.
Absolutely. Well, to slightly rain on your parade, Lewis Wedding wishes.
Oh well, maybe we should.
Should we do it?
Do you know the results of the footy yet? Or are you going to watch it later?
You tell me now. I don't care.
All right. So Lewis Wedding wishes to tell you, and we've actually just verified this to make sure he wasn't pulling our leg. Max Gawn did kick a goal after the siren to win the minor premiership for Melbourne, so he wishes to pass that along to you after that one. So watch your mouth.
Oh dear.
And now you can go and beat Lewis over the head with an ugly stick. Off you go. Well done.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We'll let him go and drown his sorrows there with Lewis Wedding for a little bit. And Bagsy, we'll move on to...
Is he a Geelong supporter or?
No, he's a St Kilda supporter, so I don't know what the how that go is there, but I think it's a running Port Adelaide joke, so we'll let that go. And we'll move on to Damon Woods, Bagsy. He's with you.
Yeah, we won the first race, and then it seemed like that second race, Rosella just took your position with a front engine car into his own hands and decided that he was going to pull a U and just walk away from the field.
All I can say is fuel saving sucks. That is the worst thing in motorsport. It was just frustrating because on 1 lap pace, I knew I was quicker than Luke, but going off first race, I had to save an extra half a litre per lap just to get to the end, and I still crossed the line with no fuel. So it was just shocking, that one.
It felt like you were racing at a faster pace than the first race, though, in comparison. Is that accurate, or were you actually running at a slower pace?
We were running quicker, but I think that was track grip over just general car pace, because I was lifting coasting. I was clutching in through almost every large braking zone on the track and short shifting everywhere, but I was still going quicker than last race. So I think it was track conditions over the car pace.
That's fair enough. Well, I believe that you've still jumped up another position in the championship, if my maths is correct. I'm sure Nether will be doing it in the background while we're doing this. But another good drive, and I think considering what you were working with, a good drive in that regard.
Yeah. Well, it could have been better, but yeah, it is what it is. I'll just move on to next round.
Good work. And on to Greg, who took what ended up being a fairly uneventful third place. Were you worried about Bolger at the end there, or did you feel pretty calm that you were going to be able to maintain the third place?
This time around, yeah, fuel was a lot better. I mean, I still crossed the line with 0.7, but I glanced at the gap, I think, with a couple of laps to go, and was fairly static. I don't know what it was at the end, because I seriously wasn't looking at it. It looked like Damon took off with maybe a lap and a half to go. Probably felt comfortable, but I didn't quite have the fuel to do that. Yeah, it was just like the first race. You just get into that sort of zone of lifting and coasting and short shifting your way around a track. It's not a fun way to race a car at all. Like every lap, like I don't mind fuel saving for half, 2/3 of the race even, but when you can't actually go flat out, it feels pretty average.
Yeah, I see. That's definitely understandable. But regardless of that, well raced, and ended up going even with Bolger this race. So yeah, you've in terms of the championship, a net zero. Are you confident you'll be able to get ahead of him later on in the championship, or are you a bit concerned he's getting too far ahead?
I don't think so. Like it's either one of us could still take it out. We seem to be pretty even. I think given the circumstances tonight, I'd take 2 third places and be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, fair enough. A good drive and a good job with the fuel saving, even though you're not the biggest fan. Well done.
Cheers, Bagsy.
Well, Nether, that's another round in the books, and yeah, another good drive in a sprint race from Rosella. I had forgotten about his Melbourne antics, but yeah, sort of, and some playing good battles down the field once again.
Absolutely. And the sprint racing is a different dynamic that we introduced last year, and it seems to pay some dividends. Some people really thrive on it. Some people like the challenge of being able to drive a car hard and find their way to up the order, so to speak. So it takes a bit of a knack for somebody to be able to hustle a car around in a sprint format, especially some of the big heavier ones like the Mercedes and the front engine cars like the BMW. It definitely is a skill, I think, that a lot of drivers are learning and having to learn very, very quickly as well. Now we're just finishing up with the point standings. We're just doing the top couple at the moment, just because we've got about a very limited amount of time with everything the way that it is at the moment. So we're just punching in the top 8 guys at the end of the night, just so we can get a readout on everything. So with Luke Rosella getting a DNF plus a win, he actually moves up into 7th place. Steve Warwick falls down to 8th. Damon Woods overtakes Lewis Wedding, so he moves up from 6th place to 5th overall in the standings. That's by 6 points. Noah Turra in 4th. He actually lost a couple of points of ground on Termo tonight. He lost 3 points worth of ground on Termo. And then the two at the head of the field essentially cancel each other out. So Greg Turra, a pair of third places, is 40 points, and Steve Bolger, a second and a fourth. That's 40 points as well. So the net result, as we said a little bit earlier, is a 5-point gap coming into tonight. Is still a 5-point gap as we leave here and head towards Paul Ricard in a couple of weeks' time. Now, Most importantly, between then and now, there is a little bit of a business. So the live streams here will just shut up shop for a couple of weeks, because after tonight, the next channel or the next live stream you'll see on this channel will be the Supercars Enduro Cup, or the opening round of the Supercars Enduro Cup, I should say, from the Sandown International Motor Raceway, the 11th and 12th of September. It's actually a two-part stream. So there's the qualifying day on the Saturday, the race day on the Sunday. Guys, there is still time for anybody that wants to get their entry in with a co-driver for the Enduro Cup. There's still a couple of spots left. So if you haven't got your entry in, or you're still looking for a co-driver, you've got a couple of weeks to get it done. And that's the next time that we will see you. And then a week after that, it will be the next round of the GT3 World Championship at Paul Ricard for 70 minutes. We'll see you then. Bye for now.